Submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff, and with me tonight is Mecha Random 42.
Hello. We're
also joined by Tom of Midnight's Edge.
Must have forgot our intro, but that's all right.
I completely forgot our intro as soon as I said Mecha Random 42. We have an intro. And finally, our special guest tonight, Robert Meyer Burnett. How are you doing?
It's good to be here. Thanks for
That's
having
part
me.
of the reason I think we're in a rush anyways, because we got Robert here. So we're just like, let's get with the show.
Yeah. So, folks, this is episode, 109, I think I figured out what it was. So, just a heads up before we get started. Next week's show, I will not be hosting. I think Tom or Mecca. Tom, you're taking it? Mecca, you taking it?
I think we talked about it earlier, but it's up to between everybody.
I'm thinking Tom should take it this time because he's never had one.
Yeah, we can do it on Midnight's Edge. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking you should take it since you've never actually had. I've had like 3 of them, or 2 or something. Yeah.
So yeah, we can do it next Tuesday, same time on Midnight's Edge.
Perfect. I'll be away.
I actually already have a guest.
So tonight we're going to be talking about a great many different things. We're going to be talking about this Rian Johnson tweet where he was calling out George Lucas's prequels. There's a rumor that they might reset the Star Wars universe and a whole lot more. So Tom, Mecca, Robert, where would you guys like to start tonight? What sounds the most?
Well, Mecca got the most involved with this Rian Johnson tweet. I know that. I don't know if you saw that, Robert.
When he talked about the prequels?
Yeah, somebody said, say something nice about the prequels, and what does Ryan have to do?
Oh, that backhanded, they're great children's things for,
fascists.
Yeah, for fascists or whatever.
Okay, he didn't specifically say that, but yeah.
Hold on, I'll pull it up.
Just blah, blah, blah. And, well, it wasn't so much even the tweet. It was people coming into the thread just randomly jumping.
I was going to say, he was like setting people up for the...
Yeah. Putting it in people's minds that,
The punchline. He was setting up the punchline, definitely. And there was one idiot, blue check mark, who come in right after him and said exactly what he was waiting for somebody to say.
Exactly. I just wish the Last Jedi fans would have remembered that.
So yeah, here's the quote. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
Oh, no, don't apologize. Rian Johnson is quoted as saying, first off, Scott Malthouse says, say a genuinely nice thing about the Star Wars prequels. Rian Johnson says, Lucas made a gorgeous 7-hour-long movie for children. How about entitlement and fear of loss turns good people into fascists, and it did it while spearheading nearly every technical sea change in modern filmmaking of the past 30 years. So,
where to begin with that statement?
Seems like a backhanded comment, no matter how you want to spin it. Robert, what do you take from this?
Well, I don't understand this idea that Star Wars was something that was made for the child in all of us. And the first 2 Star Wars movies, I call it Star Wars. It wasn't called A New Hope for the first 4 years of my life that I was watching Star Wars. It was just Star Wars.
I call it New Hope yet to this day. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't. There's by the way, there is no movie called A New Hope. There is a movie called Return of the Jedi, and there's a movie called The Empire Strikes Back, but there is no movie called A New Hope. There's just a movie called Star Wars. And I think that they, I don't understand this idea that Rian Johnson would say that. It seemed to me a little condescending that it was a gorgeous 7-hour movie made for kids. I don't understand that. I mean, I think you have multi-generations of Star Wars fans, young and old, that were very much looking forward to the prequels. I know that I was one of them. And I'm a fan of Rian Johnson's. I've liked his movies, but I don't understand that tweet. I don't get I don't understand what his meaning was, I think.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I think we can sit here and assume all day, but I think you're right. First things first, the most condescending thing is he takes and says, well, 7-hour-long movie. Okay, no, that was 3 films that were worked over the span of 6 years by a lot of different people, not just George Lucas. And then the movies for children part. Okay, yeah, the argument could be made the Phantom Menace was very kiddie, but I think it's pretty unanimous that most people agree that Star Wars is sci-fi fantasy adventure films that can be enjoyed by everybody. I mean, Lucas was inspired by the serials that he saw on television as a kid. So a part of his reasoning was to try and tap into that nostalgia of his generation, and then their kids could bring, they could bring their kids to it too. And, it was supposed to be like I think he kind of knew that from the start. Like, if this was going to work, that was how it was going to work, was you're going to get those people in there who remembered Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon and all that stuff. And they were going to get that nostalgic spark from seeing this on screen going, oh, this is something I've dreamed about seeing since I was a kid. And then their kids just seeing it for the first time going, wow, and you had the same kind of a thing with the prequels. Now, granted, I'm not the biggest fan of the prequels. There's a lot of members of the Phantom Menace who aren't. There's a lot of Phantom Menace members who will defend them to the death. And I applaud them for it. But to sit here and condescend and make a statement like this, especially when the original statement is pretty clear. Say something nice about the Star Wars prequels.
Genuinely nice.
Yeah,
right.
Genuinely nice. That would be like me going in there and going, oh yeah, the sword fights are great, but the CGI sucks and it's wall to wall. Why would you do that? Why even bother stirring that pot? And knowing what he is doing here, and that's the thing I think is worse, is he knows exactly what he's doing here.
Oh, yeah.
He was expecting somebody to follow up with the comment that did, and he knew exactly what he was setting up for somebody else to say, because he couldn't say it himself. But this guy has been nothing but condescending to Star Wars from the start. So, I mean, it just this entire thing. And, oh, yeah, so he tacks on he's been spearheading nearly every technical change in my, oh, wow. Yeah, so you kiss his butt a little bit at the end there. That still doesn't change the fact that you just ripped down 3 movies completely as just children's movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's bullshit. I'm sorry. I find a big distinction between something that's made specifically for kids and something that's a family film. And if you want to sit here and argue that then okay, then every Pixar movie is a children's movie then, I guess, which is ridiculous.
Well, George Lucas even answered it himself too a few times. Like he's there's a couple of tweets, or there's a tweet that Jar Jar Not Abrams actually found where George Lucas says, "Oh, if you want to know who I made these for, I made these for myself." So he specifically says he made them for himself. And then there's a panel where Warwick Davis was asking him a question, and he said, well, I'm going to say what everybody wants me to, or nobody expects me to say. That was the thing I sent you yesterday, Tom, where he says, yes, Star Wars are for kids. So he's gone back and forth. And for me, it's like, okay, he's making it for himself when he's 12 years old, which isn't necessarily really a kid, and yeah, we all know that they were from the serials. We all know that it was to speak to himself, and I think we're all on the same page here. We're there for the inner child and everybody. I always say they're family friendly enough that children can watch them and love them, and they are not so kiddie that adults can still get a lot out of them and they can still enjoy them and watch them. And I really wish we had Andre here on this panel, because he saw them as an adult instead of as a kid. So,
oh well, I could tell you, he's not that big of a fan. He thinks it's all right. He understands the appeal, but he doesn't have the nostalgia for them.
Exactly.
So he doesn't buy into the hype. I mean, to him, The Last Jedi was just, it was all right. It wasn't horrible, but he understands how people feel about it, and he can see it in comparison to the the prequels and the original films as far as how it stacks up. And oh yeah, he sees that. I mean, yeah.
Like I said in the chat, like a movie about taxes and tariffs is for children.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah.
You can argue, and George, because we watched Empire of Dreams the other night, he says young people. He doesn't say children.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of shit in Star Wars that it's not even a violence level, just what kid cares about taxes and tariffs and trade routes and negotiation, stuff like that. I mean, the old Star Wars movies are about good versus evil. You save the princess. That's the most overused trope in history, and it still works. Every Mario game, save the princess. Zelda, save the princess. Star Wars, save the princess. So this whole trying to turn Star Wars into something else, which is fine. I mean, they get the sequels get better by the time you get to 3. It's never been like, if you want to say what's a kiddie Star Wars thing, Galaxy of Adventure is created for little kids, and look how stupid that is. So,
right. It's clearly obvious, and I think the thing that Mecca sent me, I think what George is trying to say, because we all know he's not good with words.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he was trying to say what I was saying before, was he was making this movie for the 12-year-old inside of everybody who can go into a theater for 2 hours in the dark and have this joint experience of just being whisked away to a galaxy far, far away. Plain and simple.
Well, I think one of the things that's unfortunate about the prequels is the story that they're telling is really interesting.
Yeah.
It's not well told. Like I've said to people that I think the prequels are not good movies, but they're good Star Wars, if that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and I think like when they come out and they say, even the whole idea about taxation and tariffs, like who's taxing whom? Like there's the Trade Federation and they've put a blockade around Naboo. You don't even really know why. Like, why are they doing that? And you understand, I mean, it's a plot. None of it means anything anyway, because it's all the machinations of Darth Sidious and all of that. But it to me, what is unfortunate about the prequels, and I think the most egregious crime that they make, is that the story that they're telling, which is about the seduction and corruption of Anakin Skywalker and his journey towards becoming Darth Vader, is not a well-told story. And I think the problem is the first movie, The Phantom Menace, really isn't doing anything. If you think about The Phantom Menace, it doesn't have much of a plot. It kind of meanders around without any kind of narrative thrust. Like what are we supposed to take away from it? I mean, Anakin Skywalker isn't even introduced until halfway through the movie, practically.
Right.
And it's such a strange, I mean, the structure of it's strange. And what's really interesting to me is the whole story of the prequels, how the first of all, the seduction of Anakin, the descent of the galaxy from being a republic to becoming an empire. Those two storylines should be Godfather-esque in their greatness in terms of how that all unfolds. And if you look at The Godfather as an example, you have a character like Michael Corleone, Al Pacino's character, who is the most legitimate of the Corleone family. He's a war hero. He went to college. He's not part of the family business. He's been untouched by the association with Cosa Nostra. And when the hit happens on Vito, when they try and kill him, Michael's is brought into that world. The last thing that he wanted, that his father wanted for him, but he has to step up to protect his father's life. And that's a really well done story. And then what happens is you watch Michael Corleone as he tries to be his father. He ends up completely corrupted because he's driven by logic and he's driven by intellect, but he's not driven by heart. He doesn't have the heart of his father. So he ends up becoming corrupted to the point where he murders his own brother in Godfather 2. And it's a great story about watching family matters and corruption and crime. And the reason those movies are so revered is because they're not just mafia movies. They're, as Coppola said, they're the story of a king and his three sons. And you could have set those stories in any realm.
It's very Shakespearean, yeah.
And what we should have seen with the Star Wars prequels was something along those lines. I mean, Star Wars and Empire, Star Wars is a perfect fairy tale, but it also has a lot of really interesting stuff going on. I mean, I keep thinking of the one scene on the Death Star when you have the Imperial commanders bickering. You know, when until this battle station is fully operational, we are vulnerable. The Rebel Alliance is too well equipped. And the guy's like, this is dangerous to your Starfleet commander, not to this battle station. I mean, you see dissent in the ranks.
Yeah, even to Vader.
And even to Vader, they treat him like a little bitch. You know, your sad devotion to that ancient. And then, of course, Vader steps up and uses his force powers. But there's a lot more going on to Star Wars than just being a fairy tale. I mean, the idea that a legacy is being handed down from a father to a son. We don't quite know what all that means yet. And there's a lot going on. And in Empire, it's even deepened further. And I think one of the mistakes and one of the things that is bothersome about the prequel trilogy, especially Phantom Menace, is the tone of the film. You know, Lucas is having Jar Jar Binks step in Bantha Poodoo, you know, and telling these kinds of jokes. And it's like, what movie are you making here? This movie, I mean, you don't know. It opens with two Jedi Knights who are going to be assassinated by the Trade Federation at the behest of Darth Sidious, and it never gels. Like it doesn't know what movie it wants to be. It doesn't know what tone it's supposed to.
Well, it's funny you say that because when the trilogy was all kind of said and done, the way I used to compare it, not so much to The Godfather, but I would say it's like you had Citizen Kane, and George made it like he was making Wizard of Oz. That was the problem. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah,
No, I mean, I totally get that. I completely agree with that assessment. And it's really too bad because, Star Wars became, and I think the real problem with, in terms of George Lucas, is George Lucas never understood, and this is frequently true, what his creation meant to the world. Like, he understands it was successful and people love it, but I don't think he really understands how people internalize it because he doesn't take it as seriously as his audience does. And I think that's something, and a lot of creators can't because they made it, so they don't understand the deep connection we all had with it. I was 10 years old when I saw Star Wars, and I was already a huge science fiction fan, and that movie changed my life. I mean, it really did, that something like that could exist, because up until then, aside from, a few science fiction films you could count on one or two hands, there was nothing like Star Wars. Nothing. Not even remotely similar. And when you saw it, it was really, especially as a kid, a life-changing thing, because there was a reality to it and a meaning to it that I had never seen, that connected with me. It wasn't an adult movie that I was trying to understand. It was a film that connected with me on my level at the time, even though I knew it had a lot more going on than my 10-year-old mind could grasp. And that's why I think it worked.
Well, the beauty's in its simplicity, definitely. And it works more on just a level just with family, from young to old, but all over the world for the most part. I mean, that was the thing. It didn't just erupt here in the U.S. It was everywhere almost.
Yeah. No, it was amazing.
And I think the simplicity of the story is why. And again, it starts getting more complicated as we go down the line. We understand that, and the same thing with the prequels. And, I'm not trying to dig on the prequels. I'm not trying to sit here and, because that was what started this whole thing in the first place, was Ryan's digging on the prequels. But you and I and Jeff and Mecca talking, about the prequels is a little bit different than Rian Johnson posting about the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think what the bigger thing is here, I think, than anything.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I was surprised. Look, as I said, I was a fan of Knives Out. It was nice to see. And what I don't understand, this whole idea too, it sort of dovetails into the thing about Disney. Whether you like the sequel trilogy or not, it still made a lot of money. I mean, Last Jedi made $1.3 billion. And whether you like it, the film or not, it still was a huge monster success for Disney. The Last Jedi, The Force Awakens was a fluke. The $2 billion that it made was a fluke. It was Star Wars coming back. It had a lot more going on, but to have other movies make another $1 billion, it's a huge deal. And it's interesting that he can't leave well enough alone and be like, look, man, I cashed out. I made a lot of money.
Well, I mean, last week we had Cameron Pasha on, and he was talking about what Star Wars made. Because I know a lot of people look at the grosses, but the budget for The Rise of Skywalker is listed at $275 million. And then
both The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker are listed at $275 million. I don't buy either one of them.
I would say it's more, but I'm just going to give them. Look, we have to go with the official numbers, so nobody can say,
right.
"Oh, you're inflating it for your narrative." No, 275 is what they listed at, and the acceptable term is 2.5 times the budget for the marketing and all that shit. So I mean, if the movie cleared barely $1 billion, I figured it. Hold on, in the video I made, it figured it out. Like even with their metrics, it only made it's like a $300 million profit or something like that. But everyone touts, it's this big, massive success. But then Joker, on the other hand, cost significantly less and made more at the box office. Before
that was like a 65. Even if with marketing, Joker maybe the biggest they spent was 150 million, including all the marketing. Joker was a monstrous hit.
Well, the weird thing is, though, the Star Wars films from Disney are just a decline in terms of returns, which I'm pulling up the numbers from the other Star Wars movies real quick, because I don't want to tell anybody that it's, any wrong information. But I don't think it's the same account. It usually rebounds, especially with the original trilogy. I think Empire made less than A New Hope, but then Return of the Jedi comes back and makes more than Empire Strikes Back. So hold on, let me get the numbers up. But it's interesting because we keep hearing about redoing it and remaking it and rebooting it and stuff. And then if you look at the way they treat merchandising and marketing with the Star Wars sequel era stuff, Hasbro doesn't want to touch it. I mean, we had that guy from Gentle Giant come out a few months ago and say, there's really no demand. People keep telling us there's demand, but we make this stuff. And then Hasbro keeps announcing new products all the time, nothing is from the new movies. The only thing you have is a fan vote, and it's from Commander Cody from episode 3. I think, if anything, there won't be necessarily any more of this. What will happen is people just kind of forget about them. They made their money, kind of, and they came and went. I think they'll just...
well, that's debatable. Look at the screen, and that's, I think, the point here is that I don't think it really matters how the other trilogies went, because we all know they were fairly consistent. The problem you look at here is they lost 49% of the audience, basically, if you look at these numbers here. 49, that's half the audience almost.
Yeah.
Between the first and the last one. And again, you know, you do have to, like Robert said, the first movie was highly anticipated, all that kind of stuff. But again, there's still a big drop between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Well, I think that the problem, you know, we've talked about this before, there was no story there. Like if you really watch this sequel trilogy, there really isn't a story. If you consider what a narrative is, there's kind of one, but not really, because you're not following a real, like, are you following Poe Dameron? He's the first person you meet in The Force Awakens. You know, he's down with Lor Santeca with Max von Sydow, and he's looking for Luke's map, but that's not, he doesn't have a story, you know. And then Rey, I mean, other than wanting to know her parentage, she sort of, the stuff that happens to her in the films are sort of imposed on her. It's not something that, like, she's really doing or that she's really seeking out. You know, in Star Wars...
Whoa. Rey's story is so important. It's all about her finding the right man to tell her place.
Mm-hmm.
That, of course, was Jesse Milestone, if you didn't recognize that.
I mean, but that's, I mean... But even that's not a story. And I think the reason the merchandise doesn't sell, like, for instance, if you think about these movies, like, everyone knows what the Millennium Falcon is. You know, the Millennium Falcon hero starship. Other than what did these movies give to the lore of Star Wars? Like the sequel movies. What did it give you that you would want? Like, the reason no one's buying these toys is because there's no reason to have them on your shelf. There's nothing that happened in all of these movies that was really very cool.
No, Rob makes that point all the time on Mead. He's like, there's nothing in these play sets that is, you know, that captures a kid's imagination. What are you going to do? Milk the sea monster?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the reason you love an X-Wing fighter is because in Star Wars, when they reveal the X-Wing fighters at the Rebel base on the moon of Yavin, first of all, they were awesomely cool. And then when they take off and you saw I mean, now we know what an X-Wing fighter is. But you know what it was like watching that for the first time in the theater? Where they're traveling to the Death Star and it's lock S-foils in attack position and the wings come apart and form an X. I mean, that shit was the coolest shit ever. And it's like the first thing you think of is, I want one of those. You know, and then they attack the Death Star and Luke destroys the Death Star in his own X-Wing. I mean, those Y-Wings and X-Wings were like the coolest things ever. And the first thing you want when you walked out of that movie theater is one of those. I want a model. I want a toy. Well, I still collect this stuff. And there's nothing in the sequel trilogy that is I mean, sure, they have TIE fighters and they're black instead of that bluish gray, but I'd rather have an original TIE fighter, to be honest. Like, yeah. There's nothing new there. So
no, you're 100% right, Robert. Because I mean, some of our audience might be too young to really realize this, but when Star Wars came out, we were literally the same year there was movies coming out where you had spaceships on fucking fishing wires still. Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, you never saw any, like when that ship comes over, when that runner comes over, you're like, oh my God. And then that fucking Star Destroyer comes over. You see that for the first time. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this story from a million different people, but it changed people's lives, like you said, and not just yours alone, but millions upon billions of people's. Yeah.
I think what it really did was it changed our imaginations.
That too. Yeah, exactly. It set up the next generation and beyond. Yeah.
We suddenly could imagine things that we didn't have any, like spaceships in our minds, really, up until Star Wars came out, were still rocket ships. You know, we were not very far away from the Apollo program. Star Wars came out 5 years after the last moon landing. So that the ideas of what spaceships were still very similar to what they were in the 50s. You know, flying saucers and rocket ships. I mean, that's basically what there were, and Star Wars blew all that out of the water.
Right. And yeah.
It's the sequel trilogy. I mean, they were falling back on the Millennium Falcon again, and X-wing fighters and TIE fighters, and it's like, this is 30 years later, man. Aside from some cool Star Destroyer designs, show us something. Even those bombers at the beginning of Last Jedi were very B-wing looking. And how do you engage an audience when you're not giving them anything new?
No, and that's one thing there you go. Here's one thing you can give the prequels credit for. Because you know darn well, if George could keep selling us the same toys and stuff like that over and over again, he would probably. But at the same time, we've heard him say a million times, one thing he always did with every single Star Wars movie was bring something new to the table. That was his one big goal, whether, you know, no matter what. And when he saw the sequels, that's the first thing he said is, oh, they're just doing retro movies. They didn't bring anything new to the table. They didn't do anything different or new or original. And he even said, I think, the similar things about The Last Jedi as well, even though that was subverting everybody's expectations and unlike any Star Wars movie before, and that was its problem. Oh, we got Anna in the chat as well. Hey, Anna, how you doing? But I know, I totally agree with, I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head. We've had so many people already that were old enough then, like Culture Casino and a few others saying, like, that scene changed their lives too. And, I mean, how many careers did that scene alone spawn?
Well, even on TV as a kid in the 90s, that was awesome to me. Even on my little 19-inch JVC television, it's still just the grand scale. I mean, there's nothing from the new ones that inspire anything like that. The coolest shot from probably all of it was maybe when the TIE fighters in front of the suns. And then again, it looks very reminiscent of Luke Skywalker looking off into the sunset. So that was their trick with all of this stuff. It was, you know, looking like other things.
That's J.J. Abrams' entire career.
I hope he never touches a Superman film, because all it's going to be is well, to be fair, we had Bryan Singer with Superman Returns trying to capture the feeling of Richard Donner. That didn't work. So right. What's J.J. Abrams going to do?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that look, and the thing is, if you watch, the extended universe, the Star Wars EU, there's a lot of great stuff in that, in the books and the comics and the video games. There's a lot of, even the Clone Wars series, the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, the animated series, was pretty epic. And Mandalorian, for what it is, I mean, I don't think Mandalorian's genius, but it still is interesting. And it's like, okay, you know, it makes you interested in the Star Wars universe again. And I think that's what's really missing from the sequel trilogy. And I think, look, I blame more than anyone the Disney as a corporate entity. When they bought Star Wars, they wanted something that, okay, the Star Wars brand has worked for 40 years. We want to exploit it over all of our platforms. But what they don't, and what a corporation would never understand, is the connection to the characters in the universe, because that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet. And I think that what's happened with a lot of these franchises now is they become very profitable, and they mean something to these corporate entities that now own them. The love that an audience has for these things comes from the uniqueness of them, and it comes from the authorship. And for the most part, both Star Wars and Star Trek came out of the mind of one man. Now, sure, a lot of other people have joined in and are telling those stories now, but ultimately, for the very first time now, we have a corporation over the last decade for each, pretty much, less time for Star Wars, but the corporations dictate what needs to be done. And that is diametrically opposed to truthful storytelling. And when you want to tell a truthful story, the audience knows what works and what doesn't. And what we got were corporate mandated things, like how you cannot make a Star Wars movie and put Luke, Han, Leia, and R2 and 3PO and Chewie and Lando together for one final mission that would lead us into new characters is beyond me. I mean, I don't understand how. And from a corporate standpoint, they're like, no, we need our young audience. Why would we want to make a movie with all of these characters that are in middle age, that are old? Well, I mean, on a corporate spreadsheet or a marketing report, they wouldn't tell you that, well, that's the core of Star Wars. The core of Star Wars is Luke, Han, Leia, you know, R2, 3PO. The fact that you have these characters together and they never appeared in the frame together, that was a huge blunder. And whoever's idea that was unbelievably wrong-headed. I don't know what that has to do with Rian Johnson's tweet, though. But I mean, the fact that
I get it though.
I mean, how do you not do that? Like, how does anybody buy? And again, I always have to go back to Ryan Coogler. I was talking about this today and I was like, to me, if you want to look at the perfect way to hold or deal with a long-running franchise, what Ryan Coogler did with Creed, what he did was he had canonical fealty to the series. He brought in new characters with Adonis Creed, came up with canonically based characters that were brand new, young characters with new, young, exciting actors. And then you still gave Sylvester Stallone as the aging Rocky one of the best roles of his career, to the point where he was nominated for an Academy Award because Ryan Coogler, as a fan and a world-class filmmaker, was able to do what he wanted to do. And it was the 6th Rocky sequel.
Not only that, he's one of the few times that a character's been nominated more than once for the same character. I think the only other times was Gandalf and some of the Godfather characters.
It's an amazing thing. And that's how you do a franchise. But when Disney buys Star Wars, their corporate overlords,
and Cobra Kai too, yeah.
Well, Cobra Kai is another great example. That's another great example about how to do something correct. And those are the two things that you have to look at. Both are new, and how that doesn't happen with Star Wars is beyond me. It's beyond me. I don't understand it at all.
Well, I mean,
no, you're right, 100%. Go ahead.
There was an interview with Kathleen Kennedy in Vanity Fair where she's interviewed on camera. This isn't like a transcript. We can't muddle or change your words. But with the Star Wars brand, it was turned to a degree, especially with the merchandise, to appeal to more women, the younger girl audience. And like I always make this argument, if Star Wars has made all this money for decades and decades, it's not only dudes that are pumping the money into it. So as a company, like I say, if I owned Star Wars, I wouldn't care who bought my shit. If it made all that money, I wouldn't care if it was one person that just gave me all the money for it. But my point is, like, they were already there. They made changes for the sake of making changes, and it turned off women. Jesse, did the Star Wars sequel trilogy speak to you?
Yes.
How so?
Star Wars, the what?
The sequel trilogy. Did it speak to you?
Oh, yeah, it spoke to me in a lot of ways. It said, fuck you, your childhood is worthless to me. This incredible work that someone put in to creating the role models, the very people that kept you going through some of your hardest parts. Han Solo was always my shining beacon of, like, the strength. When I was going through hard times growing up, I always looked to that. I would tell myself, Han Solo doesn't cry, to get through some hard stuff. So yeah, to watch him turn into a deadbeat dad and then get unceremoniously killed just to fill the place in the movie where Obi-Wan died in the first one because they're too uncreative to tell a new story. Yeah, that spoke to me. That spoke real loud and clear. It said, sorry, we don't give a crap about you. We don't give a crap about what these movies meant. We don't give a crap about what good storytelling does to people and the impact it has. We give a crap about how much money you're going to throw at that. And guess what? After Force Awakens, I didn't throw any more money at that. I had the other movies, other people bought my tickets for me because they said, I want you to go. I want someone to go see it with me. Will you go see it with me? And I said, fine. So screw you, Disney. Yeah, it spoke to me all right.
Mecca, do you have anything to add to that? Did Star Wars changing it to appeal to more women, did it help you understand or appreciate Star Wars more?
No, it's a freaking insult to be told that I need special treatment and I can just have the world handed to me because I'm a girl. It's like, really, that's kind of where it went for me. I mean, I know Jesse's yelling about the whole the Han Solo thing is kind of really similar to a lot of what I say on Star Trek, because like I have that emotional attachment to Star Trek so much more than I did Star Wars, even though like this stuff pisses me off so much too. It's just like, yeah, but no, they do nothing but fucking pander to people, and they do all this just to fill these little quotas and agendas and shit too. Because like the whole race stuff was just, how do we appeal and bring in this feminist demographic that, well, you know what? Give me a hot guy to look at. I don't know. I went and saw Aquaman, for crying out loud. Give me something like that.
So one more, I just want to say specifically, The Last Jedi also spoke to me specifically The Last Jedi spoke to me very personally, especially the line where Rey literally says, I need someone to show me my place in all of this. As an independent woman who before Jeff came out here has lived alone for years and has always valued my independence and my own personal direction and doesn't let anyone tell me what to do. Oh yeah, it really speaks to me when I see the woman I'm supposed to idolize literally tell a man to show her place. and then follows one man around looking for a surrogate father figure because she can't do anything on her own. And then as soon as she sees the guy who tortured her and killed her last surrogate father figure, as soon as she sees him topless, to go chasing after him, wanting him to show her freaking place. Yeah, man, what a role model.
Well, one thing that the old, like you said earlier, though, and Robert, I think you might be able to appreciate this. So, like old Star Wars characters and just great film characters, there's something in each of them that you aspire to slightly. Like, well, Luke Skywalker, the adversity he faces nowadays, much like this current generation of give me participation trophies. All movie characters are like that. It's like shit just happens. Nobody works for anything. Nobody faces adversity. It's a lot like. I'm trying to give an example. Like in episode 9, they don't really work towards it. It's like, oh, we need to have this thing happen. So, you know,
it's all coincidental.
Yes.
Yeah, like she just falls through happens to be in the right place at the right time to get the wayfinder and with the force healing and the this and the that. Like, really?
Oh, just like the time jump, or not time jumping, but light speed jumping and all that, skipping and all that crap.
That sucked. Oh my!
All that stuff's JJ-isms. So.
Oh, and then what really pisses me off about this new one, to go down like the whole she's not a good female role model. This dude literally reaches through the freaking force to force Skype rip a necklace off this girl's neck. Are you kidding me? You're ripping the necklace off of her. That's abusive. Like, seriously, if somebody puts his hands on me to rip something off my neck, he's not getting his fucking hand back. Sorry.
Also, they totally stole that from Pocahontas, just saying.
I haven't seen the movie in forever, so
there's a whole dramatic scene where it's the guy she's supposed to marry dies, and he pulls the necklace off her, and it's a whole freaking thing. And it was like, honestly, if you look at it, weirdly enough, it just triggered it when I saw it. I was like, it was almost like the same shot.
The only thing I remember when Andre the Giant betrayed Hulk Hogan and ripped his cross off and ripped his skin at the same time. That's all I can think of when I think of that shit.
I think more people have seen Pocahontas, but I'm not sure.
Maybe. I don't know. WrestleMania 3 was in front of 93,000 people, and it sold millions on pay-per-view. So
I think
that's one of those things where I might actually be like, we could pull out numbers. We'll talk
I think
off
at
air.
least 3 people have seen Pocahontas.
Wow.
Pocahontas wasn't one of Disney's bigger films, but
I did not, dude. I saw the movie as a kid on tape, and I never watched it again. I hated it. It was so, Lion King was fun, Aladdin was fun. Then I just got into Star Wars right after. But so. Anything else you guys want to add about this Rian Johnson tweet? I feel like he pops himself up every once in a while when he's looking for some attention. Knives Out seems to be well regarded. It made its money. Cool. Go off and do that shit. That's the type of movie you're meant to do, Rian Johnson. And for all these people that are, proverbially blowing him online, like there's never going to be a trilogy because the money is the factor. And that his random trilogy is not going to bring in all these people, and it's not going to make billions of dollars. They made all the money in the beginning based off the goodwill of the original trilogy, and then there was diminishing returns after these movies had to speak for themselves and be their own thing. You can only bring back the original crew once, and you didn't even do it right, Disney. And look how each film tries to introduce an original character again. First it's Han and Leia, then it's kind of Luke, even though he shows up for the last 1 minute, and then it's Lando. And even Lando was pretty damn ineffectual in that movie. And Lando, I love Lando Calrissian.
Well, I mean, again, when you have your corporate overlords, they're thinking, all right, whatever we need to do, we need to be able to spread it out across our theme parks, video games, merchandising, and all of that. When really, I always say this, I always say that my axiom is you can't put your universe in front of your characters and your story. And what they need to do, what anybody needs to do, is you have to have great characters and a great story, which means the characters have to be beloved because they've earned your love. And I think what Disney did was they figured just because it's Star Wars, people are going to like it, when really they should have been thinking the exact opposite. Forget Star Wars. What we need to come up with is great characters that are on interesting journeys of discovery about themselves and about the universe at large. And then those stories will fit them into the Star Wars universe and people will like them. But instead, they just made all of these. You're basically looking, I consider the prequel trilogy or the sequel trilogy, the Star Trek Voyager of Star Trek, whereas Star Trek Voyager, by the time you got to Voyager, it was the fifth show, if you include the animated show. You had the original series, you had TNG, you had Deep Space Nine, and you had the animated show. When you get to Voyager, it's like, okay, we have the half human, half alien character. And okay, we've got, the engineer. And okay, we've got the doctor, but we'll make him a hologram. So they had all these Star Trek tropes. And I do like a lot of Voyager. I think Voyager is a much better show than the sequel trilogy movies are. But the sequel trilogy is not a trilogy that stands on its own, and it should be. You should be able to watch, like when you watch the prequel trilogy, it's unto itself. The sequel trilogy is all full of stuff that came before, and it doesn't stand on its own, and actually it doesn't stand at all. And I think that's where it really falls down. And it's not telling a story. It's got things that happen that kind of are, but not really. And that's what I think the problem is. And Rian Johnson, to be fair, was kind of stuck in the middle. Like he was given Luke on an island. It's not like he put Luke on that island. So he had to make sense of it.
Sorry, I had myself muted because there was a car race outside as usual.
Oh.
They're filming American Graffiti 3. Anna, you going to come tell us about that or not?
I have insight on the new Fast and Furious movie because I'm in the thing. They almost hit me.
Did they really?
Dude, I'm a huge fan. I can't wait. I hope it's great.
I haven't seen Hobbs and Shaw, but I've seen every other film in theaters. Take it back. I saw Tokyo Drift on TV, but I've been slowly introducing Jesse to the franchise, and it's a lot of fun. So.
I never even got past the first one.
It's dumb, but it's
goofy.
So
Fast 5 is the pinnacle, though.
Yeah, the first one with The Rock. Yeah, that's probably the best one, especially at the end when they're driving that Volt across the streets, and
it's my favorite. It's the best.
Well, it's some movies like that. That's why they have the big international appeal that they do, because obviously, they have the cross-cultural appeal, but it's just basic fun. That's why I don't think Star Wars, in a way, works in certain parts of China specifically. Yes, because it wasn't there back in the day, but it's a different type of movie, different type of mysticism. The Transformers movies made their money there. Marvel movies make their money there because it has a different cultural appeal. I think a lot of the people don't like how the Star Wars characters look or what they do. It comes out in America at the right time, post-Vietnam, right as everything's kind of murky, and then everyone's like, oh, we have this big movie, this thing that we can, get into. It's fun. It crosses crosses the generations. It brings people together. And, it just doesn't work ever. Fast and Furious, I hate to say it, is kind of like that for a lot of people. You just go turn your brains off and say, you see where they jumped the car from the Burj Khalifa to the other one? Yeah, it was crazy. And that's it. There's nothing else. There's no deeper meaning. And you don't have people like what we're going to talk about next with this Time magazine writer trying to prescribe deeper meaning to these films. And sometimes that's what we need in these films. This is the film. This is the story. Watch it, have fun, and leave. Turn your brain off. Not, we need to talk about how we can recontextualize superheroes now that we talk about cops differently. So that's a little.
Oh, man. I did a show about that. Oh.
We only have a couple super chats to read. I want to get your take on it because we've talked many times about comic book stuff here. And I'd like to hear your take as a longtime fan, because I've been watching. I watch a channel called Comic Tropes, and that guy's pretty cool in my opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody I'd like to have on. I don't know if a High Council would work because he's not really a Star Wars guy, and a lot of the comic book stuff is get into the minutia of it. But my point is, there's comics have been progressive to a degree about certain things, but they've become something else these days. And to me, it's just they're not really worth reading. But anyway, first off, I want to give respect to our audience. Thank you to Bowie8085, who says, all I want is a show with samurai knights and Vikings riding around armored dinosaurs, battling each other to the death in rated R fashion. But now we can't have cool things anymore. It sounds like a Power Rangers crossover, but, it would be fun. I think we'd all watch that. Agreed?
I would watch that.
Have you ever seen a show called Deadliest Warriors? It was on Spike many years ago. It was like what a Spartan beat a ninja, what a knight beat a samurai. And
I remember that show. Yeah,
that was an awesome show. I wish they'd bring that back and do all sorts of different crossovers. Could a Jedi beat what's the epitome of warriors in Star Trek? Something like that. Sister Harrow, a Klingon. Would a lightsaber cut through that? What's that? I don't know. Yeah, dude. I'm not, Anyway, Sister Harrow says, hey, panel, listening while at work. Well, Sister Harrow, thank you very much for listening at work. We hope you're, having an okay time at the job. But thank you for listening to the High Council. Culture Casino, thank you very much for the unicorn sticker. Thank you for the intro. I'll play it at the end. I don't want you to think we don't love it. I just forgot. Our friend Rosetta Allen says, hello and love to the High Council. Much appreciation and hello to Mr. RMB. I hope he is doing amazing. You are all sweethearts. Thank
Things
you,
are good.
16-bit mascot, I can't speak, sorry, says, Hail Mecca, Bat, Tom, Jeffsy, and Robert. Hope you are all well. Keep it real.
Hail.
Hail.
Hail, hail.
Taker 610 says Turkey made their own Star Wars. Well, kinda.
Yeah,
I've seen Turkish Star Wars. It's
rough.
Edmund Dodo, thank you very much. He says this is classic Pareto's principle. 80% of the effects come from 20% of the cause. Disney thought they could bypass the hardcore 20% of fans and create that hype and bring in the 80% of casual audiences.
Well, I think it's almost flip-flop with Star Wars. Star Wars was like one of those things where like you had pretty much 80% of the people going to see a Star Wars movie, and they went and lost quite a big number of that people, and they're not gaining any ground. That's just it. I mean, yeah, the few people they may have gained in this, the Raylos and one other business, it's not making up for the loss. There's no way.
Well,
no way.
They left too after Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah,
they're not coming back.
And they left after. Yeah, I fucking hate Star Wars.
Well, I think what they mean by the 20% is the people that are like us, who I don't need a movie.
I think
to get excited over a Speeder toy coming out.
Okay, I suppose if you're putting it that way, because I mean, Star Wars is that's the thing, and I think that's the biggest thing that everybody kind of overlooks is nothing was bigger than Star Wars. I mean, Marvel's the closest thing we've had to Star Wars to this point, and even that took how many films to build up to that, Robert? I mean, come on, 20.
Yeah, I mean, there's been 23 that we've seen so far, but if you look at if you average out across the 23 films, all of the box office, they all average out at $1 billion, and that's an insane track record. I mean, that's the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is beyond anything in Hollywood. Nothing has come close in terms of box office.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Star Wars, those two are probably the only two that are equatable, but they're still not, yeah.
Well, they didn't. I mean, the thing that the difference is, I would say, is that we all grew up with Marvel characters in different forms, whether it was movies or not like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but, I grew up watching, they had the Hulk and Thor teaming up on
right,
TV
or the
movies.
old Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah, the Spider-Man. So the Marvel characters had been around for a long time. So I think one of the great successes of what Marvel did is they put them on the screen in grand fashion, and the person in charge, Kevin Feige worked on 13 different Marvel movies before the MCU, whether it's X-Men, Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Elektra, Daredevil. He saw what worked and what didn't work. So he was able to, when they founded the MCU with Iron Man, he was able to really figure out how everything worked. And if you really look at the first Iron Man, if you go back and you watch it, it's a surprisingly small story. I mean, it really is the story about the comeuppance and the transformation of one man. And the big battle at the end is between his former mentor and former friend and head of the company. So it's a very personal, very small story. I mean, sure, it's got scope to it, but I mean, it's an intimate story about one man's transformation. And it works, it really, really works. And it works. It doesn't have to have some apocalyptic universe ending battle, because the battle at the end is really for the soul of the company and really for Tony Stark's his own soul. And it's a really good movie. Like, if you took out Iron Man, if you took out all the visual effects and told that exact same story without the superheroics of it, it would still work. You would still watch that. And if you just, he was just an arms dealer and there never was Iron Man, it was something else. He was drifting away from the company. You could still tell that exact same story and make it a compelling movie. And that's the real key, I think, to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Some of it works better than others, but really those movies are all, when they introduce the characters, they're personal stories about individuals who take on these mantles of power, and they have to find something in themselves and make a decision. Even Captain Marvel, that's not the most well-liked movie, she has to step up and understand that she's been on the wrong side the whole time, and the people that she's been working for might very well be the villains, and she has to sort of break free of that. And you could tell that same story Earthbound and set it in a non-sci-fi superhero context, and it could still work. And I think the Star Wars movies, same with the original Star Wars. Luke If you took it out and didn't make it a science fiction movie, and he was just a farm boy who gets involved with, like, he finds a bootlegger. Han Solo's an 18-wheel driver, that's, I don't know, gun running or something. You could tell the same story, and it could very well be interesting.
Right.
And I think that's when a story is really good. Is that you can take out the genre trappings that we all love, the gooey, chocolatey goodness of science fiction, fantasy, and horror, and take that away, and you're still left with a compelling story. And that's the real test. And I think that's where the Star Wars sequel trilogy utterly fails.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's no story.
Definitely. And and that was key to the original series, was like we brought up earlier, was the tropes that they followed were like the hero's journey and certain other, classic storylines, along with adding new special effects and things we'd never seen before. So it was like the melding of so many different things.
Yeah.
And it's go back to and with Feige, to give him even more credit, I guess, he went and did what he did at first without any of the heavy hitters in the Marvel universe. He did it with all the B level characters like Iron Man and Captain America and stuff like that. I mean, arguably the biggest character they had under their belt at that time was the Hulk. He
was over at Universal, technically.
And as far as recognizability, I mean, the only one that anybody really knew, I mean, that you could gather 10 people in a room and say, do you know who the Hulk is? Everybody pretty much raised their hand. Do you know who Iron Man is? 2 people raised their hand.
Yeah.
You know who Captain America is? Maybe 5 people raised their, you know what I mean? Like, you'd have this situation. It's the same thing with like Guardians of the Galaxy. Oh, nobody would have raised. It's like, this guy did this with, not anybody knowing these characters. Go ahead. Sorry, Jeff.
Well, we always talk about story and direction. The reason I think the Avengers did the 20-something billion dollars in that franchise it did is because they had a direction, though, very early on.
Yes.
The first wave, it was, hey, we're going to have the Avengers happen. So, Marvel took a huge risk. If those movies would have failed, who knows what would have happened to Marvel? They bet the farm and they won massively. And then, as soon as the first Avengers becomes one of the biggest movies ever, makes $1 billion+ everyone's riding high. They're like, this is what we're working towards next. So from 2012 up until last year, we knew it was Thanos. We knew the end game already. So I think having a plan in a direction early on, like with the Star Wars prequel trilogy, we knew before the film ever came out, episode 1, that this was the story of how Anakin becomes Darth Vader, and everyone was going to be on board because we want to know how Vader got burned up in the suit, what happened with Luke and Leia as little kids, all this stuff. There were all these questions. People had all these questions that they were asking. With the sequels, they were so worried about mystery box this and mystery box that it was getting just, we didn't really have much to go on. They were hoping that it was just because the name Star Wars on it, enough people would be so curious. I mean, remember all the rumors and theories about Snoke that people made countless videos on and nothing came of it? The Marvel stuff wasn't built like that. It was, hey, what's Thanos' plan? Oh, shit, we have to wait and find out. And people were strung along. And I hope that's something that can be replicated because as a fan in the audience, I enjoyed it the whole time. I didn't like Captain Marvel, and Black Panther is okay at best, and Ant-Man 2's But overall, it's still this great experience that I don't think can ever be replicated. And when we get to the next segment we're going to talk about, I don't think it will be replicated because everyone's going to be worried about, I don't even know how to describe it. Let me just read these last 2 super chats, and I'm dying to get into this because I saw this earlier today, and it really pisses me off. Tom, Mecca, you both shared the article.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to definitely be making a video about this tonight into tomorrow.
Yeah,
so our friend Mega Jetty 1, thank you very much. She says, enjoying my new icon with my new N64 shirt. It's pretty badass, Mega Jetty 1. I love the N64 logo. I used to try to draw that as a kid all the time. Never got it down. Was never good with the 3D nature of their logo. But it's a kick-ass shirt, dude. I double approve. And we also have our friend TLJ Screwjob who says, isn't that what Bob Iger said about Galaxy's Edge? We don't need to advertise Galaxy's Edge. People will come because it's Star Wars. And did that age well?
Well, I think we got the answer what happened there, and that was that they were going to go with classic stuff, and then as soon as Force Awakens was a hit, KK said, no, we're going to change it over, and Bob's like, okay. And I can see at that point, why would he argue? I mean, the Force Awakens was one of the biggest movies of all time. Why would you argue with that,
Thank you for telling me my Snoke theory sucks because I didn't even have one. And then,
I think right there is where the difference between, not to drag off again real quick, but where Feige and Ryan are different is Ryan didn't get that was a part of the fun of these movies, was speculating on who was who and what was what, and him making Snoke and Rey a nobody in his movie was the biggest double FU to all the fans in the world. And that's what that whole your Snoke theory thing sucks was about too, is that's the only way you can make everybody's theory null and void is by making the two of them absolutely nobody.
But Ryan, your Snoke theory sucked. It sucks so bad they didn't even use it in the last movie. So shut up.
Well, it's also like, why would you introduce, like, you're playing with a universe that has visual dictionaries that explain everybody who knows who does what to whom and why. Why would you introduce a character that in The Force Awakens was pretty interesting? Like, you're like, where did this guy come from? And we all know, we're all fans, to not have any explanation of where they came from was so unsatisfying. Why do you have a character that you're not going to explain who they are, where they came from, what they want, and then get rid of them? Why waste the screen time? Like, that's what kind of storytelling is that?
It was clearly Ryan going, fuck you. And we have more than enough proof that he tossed out JJ's treatment for the trilogy. So we clearly know that Snoke and Rey had different paths ahead of them.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I don't understand, having read that Duel of the Fates script, which I thought was much better. It ended, it was much more interesting script. It had lots of very interesting ideas, cohesive. And I don't understand, like, why it wasn't all plotted out meticulously before they even started shooting Force Awakens. I mean, that's something I'll never understand.
I mean, they were kind of lucky they got JJ to draft a outline, probably, but they were in such a big hurry. If you read Bob's book, to get that first movie out there, they had to.
Right, I know.
Well, yeah, they were in such a big rush because they had to start making that $4 billion back.
Of course, but they could have. It's. I get it. I mean, that Hollywood doesn't. when he does that was borrowed money. You got to go borrow that liquid cash.
And I've said it before. They went backwards about it. They should have went the other way around. They should have started with something like The Mandalorian, something small, get it out there quick and cheap and easy. Bank on that for a little bit while you're building up these other ideas. They already had an Obi-Wan movie in the can and a couple other movies that they could have ran with early on. If the first thing out of the gate would have been an Obi-Wan movie, everybody would have been thrilled. I mean, and spent a good 2-3 years just planning a trilogy, then give us a trilogy. You know what? And I don't think we would have lost Carrie Fisher as soon either. I think part of the reason she died is because of all the pressure that she was under, all the diets and the exercise that she was pushed under for these movies. And that was a big stress on her body, and it just gave out on her. I think that was part of it. I think The Last Jedi killed Carrie Fisher, to be honest with you.
Well, you could have started with Rogue One even.
That's what I'm saying. You do these ancillary films where you didn't have to start with an episode film.
Well, but I mean, like, specifically, if Episode 7 is all about nostalgia and goodwill and remember this and remember that, well, you know what? All your rip-off TIE fighters and X-Wings don't compare to seeing, Red Leader and Gold Leader, the Death Star, real TIE fighters, Darth Vader. People are going to go, oh my God, it's been forever. And then they'll get excited. I think that would have done more.
You're right.
I totally agree with that. I mean, the space battle at the end of Rogue One is way better than anything we get in the sequel trilogy. It's so much more fun.
Every review would have been like, yeah, that's more like it, or something like that. Definitely. Sorry, Robert.
No, I mean, I think you're absolutely right about that. But the problem is, you needed somebody like Kathleen Kennedy, I think, is a very capable producer. But what you needed was a visionary who understands, like, the thing about Kevin Feige is he's made Marvel his mission in life. And he worked on 13 Marvel movies, as I said first. But then what he did is like, look, we have the comic books. Now, obviously, we're not going to go in and adapt them exactly. But Ed Brubaker's Winter Soldier storyline's really good. And he told it over a number of years. So why not go to that run of comics and use it to inform what we're doing? Same was true of Civil War. So you had all of these Star Wars stories,
You're wrong. KK said herself, there is no comic books or 500-page novels to use for Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. But why not? You've got, I do not understand. Both Star Wars and Star Trek have all of this great ancillary material that exists that you can go mine. You can go and look at and go, yeah, we can pick and choose what's already here. And the audience already had these great stories told post Return of the Jedi, whether it's, Jason Solo or Mara Jade or Asajj Ventress or whatever you want to get into. And yet they just, all of that, it was all there for the taking. And you could have taken whatever you wanted of it, and they just didn't. And it's such a weird thing to me. Whereas Kevin Feige's like, nope, we're going to use the comic books. We're going to use the actual cool storylines. Like, okay, here's my Infinity Gauntlet #1 comic that I'm going to send in and get slabbed. I mean, go look at that. They did. Mm-hmm. And they made 2 Infinity War and Endgame. Watching them together, it's 2 of the most satisfying experiences, and watching them together is one long story. I mean, wouldn't you have liked to have seen a Star Wars movie that's as much fun as those movies are to watch, even though they're not perfect? I mean, Infinity War is certainly a hell of a lot of fun.
Yes, it is.
and I mean, you watch the opening scene, Hulk fights Thanos. Loki gets his neck crushed. And Hulk gets thrown to Earth, and Iron Man and Doctor Strange start going at each other. I mean, it's so much fun to watch those movies. You can't not have a smile on your face.
Oh, I love Infinity War. And I even, when I rewatched, I didn't like Endgame as much in the theaters, but I liked it more when I seen it again.
Yeah.
I haven't sat down to rewatch that one.
See,
I watched Infinity War yesterday.
Yeah, see, there's a few
and
people
wasn't
now,
it fun?
I've seen that movie, honestly, probably 30 times, because when it hit Netflix last year, I would just keep putting it on when I was working on stuff or doing stuff. I love Infinity War. It might be my favorite MCU flick right after Winter Soldier. I can't decide.
It's amazing.
But it's also just every character and all the interaction, and it's just so much fun to watch. You're like, the fact that we get a Marvel movie where they actually did all that with all the characters. I mean, these are people that know what they're doing. They've carefully crafted that. The writers knew what they were doing. The filmmakers know what they're doing. I mean, can you imagine? I think about that movie a lot because it was so satisfying on so many levels, but I just think about what I would love to have been there the first time that Kevin Feige showed the Disney brass who hadn't been privy to seeing the movie as it was being developed. Like when the Disney marketing people sat down and watched that movie for the first time. How they must have all sat there and went, fuck, man, you guys knocked this one out of the park. And in the same building, you've got people making Star Wars where everyone's like, eh.
Well, the one thing you talk about the Marvel characters, Marvel didn't jump the gun with the characters. It took time. They built the relationships. I mean, when we're talking about Infinity War, when Iron Man holds the phone, all of a sudden, as the audience member, you're having flashbacks to that whole big battle in Civil War. And even if you want to go back to the first time they ever met in the first Avengers movie, there's tension. What are you? Take off the suit of armor. They always have that thing, that tension, that rivalry. And so it always kept building. And I think that is why those movies are so successful. And if DC or another company that has a universe property type of thing wants to replicate it, instead of replicating all the shared movies, you need to have the shared interactions with the characters. And each character needs to have something. Everybody has a relationship to somebody else. Even, you have the Natasha Clint, you have Natasha Hulk, you have Hulk Iron Man, and Natasha has a relationship with Iron Man too. So it all builds up into this realistic, fleshed out world that doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for dumb things. They're so focused on a story. It's also, I won't say watertight, but very close to it, that it's leading to this thing. They care. There's care on screen.
It's tight enough that the one lesson that I think KK should have taken from that, and in this whole grand scheme of things, was that you have to have somebody running the ship who is creative, who understands the world, and is first and foremost a fan. And I think that was probably her biggest mistake, was not finding somebody like Favreau or something like that to put under her wing and say, look, this is a little bit beyond my, I don't know how to put it, but that's the thing. She's so overly confident and egotistical about shit that I know Robert and I kind of don't see eye to eye on her, but because I used to love KK too, but I've changed my view on her in this last few years with all this shit going on.
Well, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. It's
again, I have to make that argument that if Kevin Smith has his producer call up New York and say, hey, I need Brooklyn Bridge shut down. They're going to laugh at him. KK calls up and says Spielberg needs Brooklyn Bridge shut down. They're going to say, oh, right away, Miss Kennedy.
Right.
That's because she's making Spielberg movies. She was in the right place at the right time, got in with Spielberg. Now, she may have learned a lot of shit in all those years. I'm not saying that. But one thing she hasn't learned is how to be creative. Because even Spielberg himself has said she's not a creative, in so many words. So, like, this was not the job for her. The job for her would have been maybe producing it on the side, but getting somebody like Favreau or somebody like that to come in and actually oversee this universe and not, tamper with it on the outset, and put in her politics and all that other business.
Yeah, to elaborate on how she's just not creative, there was an interview or something where Steven Spielberg was basically trashing Kathleen Kennedy, saying, well, yeah, she kind of jumped into the conversation and was like, when we were talking about Indiana Jones, hey, what if instead of getting the girl, he gets the dog in the end? It's like, Kathy, shut up. Kathy, shut up. Go get me coffee, Kathy.
Well, and I don't want to go to that extent, but I'm just saying, like, she clearly should have been smart enough to see that somebody like Ryan or been clearly smart enough to be like, okay, JJ, if you're not going to oversee this entire trilogy, find somebody who will, because that was the biggest mistake. You don't get a bunch of auteur filmmakers to come in and try and do this. And that's where that was the point I was trying to get around to, is Kevin Feige knew, especially like, look at Ant-Man. When him and Edgar Wright couldn't see eye to eye on the film, he knew enough that, having Edgar Wright attached to this movie may make it a bit more money than it would have if he wasn't, but it's not going to fit into the overall Marvel universe, and you can't argue with that. Overall, in the end, it was probably better for that. Now, could have Edgar Wright made us a kick-ass Ant-Man movie? Shit, yeah. But would it have fit with the Marvel universe? That's debatable. Probably not. Otherwise, I don't think Kevin Feige would have made that choice if that was the case.
Yeah, I was one of those people back in the day that was like, oh man, without Edgar Wright, this movie's going to suck. And then I went and saw it and I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I don't care. Peyton Reed, he did a good job. That was one of those Marvel films that I was like, it could be whatever. Like with Guardians, I went and saw, I was like, it could be whatever. And I walked out, I gave it a thumbs up. I was happy.
But see, now Kevin was smart enough to know you have to have somebody like James Gunn with his sense of humor and his sense of filmmaking and timing to make that movie work, because nobody was going to go see that movie, and it had to work in the word of mouth and all that kind of stuff, and the trailers are what pushed that movie to the point where otherwise we wouldn't be talking about Guardians. Nobody would care about Guardians of the Galaxy if somebody else would have made it, probably. I mean, that's the thing, is Feige knows to put the right people in the right places, the Russo brothers and all so on down the line. Kathy has fired more directors than she's hired at this point and actually put to work. That's the problem, along with all the issues they had behind the scenes on every single movie except for one. Only one movie they've made has not had some problem, and that was the worst one of the bunch. So go figure on that one. I don't know what else to say other than that on that, because we got to jump into the superhero business.
Yes, so briefly, we have not briefly, but Michael J. Cox says, wait, R&B is wearing a shirt from Mad Max? Cool.
Yes, I love that fucking shirt, by the way.
Yeah, it's funny. Some people get it. Some people, I love my obscure geeky t-shirts.
Chuck E. Cheese says, now, Vader, he's a spiritual brother. Down with the Force and all that good shit.
That's from Chasing Amy.
Chasing Amy, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Hooper X that says it, right?
So underneath, you're just saying we all wants to be white. Well, isn't that true?
I joined a Facebook group about comic book inking, and I remember how Chris Rock and Jay and Silent Bob was like, you ink, you trace, you go around the lines. I'm like, man, I hate that line because it makes me comic book inking is so much
fucking tracer.
Yeah, I hate that shit. Like Joe Sinnott passed away last week. He was one of Jack Kirby. Not one of Jack.
One of the great. Yeah,
the best line in that movie is, "I'll trace a line around your dead fucking body."
But I was one thing that Kevin Smith. Yes, he's this. He's the '90s king of the geeks and all this other stuff. But I feel like comic book inking was always kind of treated as a secondary tool or secondary thing because of him. And I'm like, damn it, no.
I think actually, I don't know, maybe you saw it a little differently than I think the fact that Banky, he fights that fact, I think that's what that whole point of that line I just said, It's. I think it's Kevin's way of saying no. A tracer isn't just somebody who just sits there and draws on. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. I think.
No, when Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back comes out, it's said again, and he just shuts up and takes it. I'm like,
oh, well, I think it was just a callback to the joke, but I get you. And what's a Nubian?
Dude, if you want to talk about that, talk to Kendo. Kendo loves that. I don't really like Chasing Amy that much. I think that's
Banky is the reason that movie is good. Anyway.
So Unrelenting Male says Mundane Matt is a loser. That is all. Okay.
He went after Doomcock, so
I know we can talk about it towards the end if you want. It's not
really
well for him.
I don't need to give him any attention.
I'm not. People are posting screenshots of the thumbs up to thumbs down ratio all over our Facebook page, and I am staying out. You know what? He can make his own content and do what he wants to do while I'm next to this race car. But that's him. Like I said, the one time we ever spoke, you are not welcome here. It's over and done with. We're done. So after the shit that happened right before I'm High Council, that's it. He's done. Canceled Venom says sat on TIE Fighter. Now my butt cheeks are twin ion. What? Matt G, thank you very much for the Unicorn Super Sticker. The Unrelenting Male is very unrelenting. He says, Mundane Matt is a talentless hack. I think those words might have rubbed him the wrong way. Unrelenting Male. Lord.
He's been replying to like every reply. I've made a mean tweet about him because it's fun. He's been replying to like everybody's replies all after. I haven't even looked at it since I made the damn tweet. I've been busy doing real things. And he's just been on Twitter all afternoon crying to anyone who will listen about I'm not intelligent, you're untalented. I'm not irrelevant, you're irrelevant. It's hilarious.
Lordy and Malcolm says, not to take away from the conversation, but Caesar, the all-knowing human sunbeam, is about to make $1 million on his frog book. Well, congratulations. We have our copies here.
He posted something like, drunk, if I get past 1 million, I'll eat McDonald's or something like that on Twitter.
Jeffrey Turner, aka Mega Jetty 1, says, I have summarized Vader's story and Leia's story plot. Oh, you have a summarized version. Okay, we'll have to check it out, man. You got to contact Jesse. Hit her up. Canceled Venom also says, the Force wants to see your manager. So what you're telling me is Kathleen Kennedy's the ultimate space Karen, right?
Oh,
ouch.
Commander Pluto says, Aussie fact of the day. Despite being roughly the same size as the U.S., Australia's population is a little over 24 million. I was not aware of that. I like Aussie facts of the day. And our friend Go Big Boar Go Home says, no, your name is Fucky. Shakalutha King. I love that line. Thank you, Go Big Boar Go Home. I want to watch that.
So this shit here with the superheroes, I think a few of us called this. I'm pretty sure a few of us said this was going to happen.
Well, it goes to the whole, you give them an inch, take a mile. Now,
like I said, they let stupid win.
This article, by the way, is the second one of these that I've read. I did a story. I did a show about this a couple weeks back.
Who did the original one? Because this is time now. We're getting serious.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look and find the actual. I can do that, though. I can find the actual. I'll look for it.
Well, I wanted to ask you specifically, though, since we haven't had a chance to talk. The other week, we had Gone with the Wind be pulled off HBO Max, and now it's a disclaimer. The week after that, Variety put out an article that says Forrest Gump, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Dirty Harry, what was the other one? You Before Me and something else all need warnings before them. Now we're getting into this talk about, the superhero stuff. Where do we draw the line, and do you think they've gone too far with this?
Oh, yeah, they've gone too far. Are you talking about Robert?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, look, right now we're in what I'd like to call an evolutionary period of time. We'll see where we are in a year or two if people are still looking into all these things. I think it's important. I do think it's important to contextualize certain things. But I also think, like in the case of Gone with the Wind, in the film, you have to ask yourself, what is that movie really about? And while, yes, it takes place in the antebellum South, and yes, it really downplays slavery. It really does. And it clearly it makes it look like, oh, slaves were content to be where they were. And it does a lot of things that are very, very problematic. But also, what is the story that Gone with the Wind is actually telling? It's not really a story about slavery per se. It's one about this tempestuous relationship that these people have, but it's also about war. and how you have all this way of life that supported slavery. They're like, ooh, let's go to war against the Union. I mean, these were treasonous.
I was going to say, it actually
wanted
kind of paints them as idiots in some points.
Yes, it does. And they're all very eager to go off the war. And what happens? They all get eviscerated. You know, they all get destroyed. Atlanta is burned to the ground. And we see by the train tracks hundreds, if not thousands of casualties. These men that were so eager to go to war and fight against the North just getting torn asunder and ripped apart. You know, and so stories like this, like Gone with the Wind, have a lot more going on than just, they're not just about one thing. And I think that that's something that we need to remember, that when you start talking about a story like Gone with the Wind, there's many facets of that story that a lot of them don't have anything to do with slavery. And when the danger is that that's all that Gone with the Wind is about, and that's all that people are going to look at. That, well, we have to contextualize it because now we have to show you how bad this movie actually is. And I think there's an argument to be made. First of all, everything's a product of its time. The movie came out in 1939, so you're looking at, it's 80 years old. The world was a very different place when it was made. And this idea that we want to contextualize everything based on where we are today. I mean, like this article that's critical of superhero movies. You have to remember, like, all of human history is a litany of human beings being horrible to other human beings. It just depends where you were. Look at the rape of Nanking and what happened, what the Japanese did to the Chinese in World War II. Let's talk about what the Germans did to the rest of Europe, or what the Russians did to their own people. You know, I mean, we human beings are going back far enough. Everybody has committed horrible acts against everyone else.
Well, and
now,
I think go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's not to excuse everyone, but the important thing is not this gotcha, like, you're bad and you're bad and you're bad and you're bad. I hate that. I really do. I think the important thing is we need to recognize where we come from in the past, and we have to move forward together. I mean, what's really interesting, on one hand, I am a middle-aged white cis male, the root of all evil. But on the other hand, I'm from a Jewish family. You know, I spent my youth going to Sunday school, meeting people that were concentration camp survivors. My family built a synagogue in Seattle. You know, I that's where I come from. So if I'm a white cis male, does that mean I can then pull my Jew card out and go, by the way, I'm from an oppressed minority too? And it gets to the point where it's like, well, I don't ever want to do that. You know, I don't ever, most people don't know that because I don't look Jewish. And I mean, I've heard it all my whole life. And it's like, look, man, what is in the past is what we should learn from and move forward. And you can't sit there and dwell. Like, how far back do we want to go about the horrors of this country? On one hand, I believe, you know, Black Americans have never had equality. Not once. Because, I mean, we had laws on the books after World War II. We had Black soldiers coming back from the front lines fighting in Europe or fighting in the Pacific, and they weren't allowed to avail themselves of the GI Bill. And the GI Bill is what really built the middle class. And Black Americans were left out of that. This was by law. And it's like, these are the things, these are the horrors. Slavery was horrible, but since slavery was abolished, we've actually there's been institutionalized racism keeping Black Americans from their birthright. They're fighting and dying for this country, and we had racist laws on the books keeping them from things like the GI Bill. These are terrible things, you know, and we have not, like, if a Black area or any minority area or any low income area in America, of which there are many, why aren't we then going and spending all the kind of money that we need, get these people the best teachers, make sure these economically depressed areas are lifted up, give people opportunity? Because you know what that's going to do? It's only going to make our country better. in the long run. We have to help everybody, and we have to give opportunities to everyone. And it's like, you know what? Black Americans have never had their fair share ever. So I am a huge proponent of doing that. We have to make sure that Black families are lifted up, that we have Black Americans that have the same opportunities as everybody else. We have to do that. But you know what? These are systemic problems that go all the way back to the fact that we don't have, our educational system sucks. It sucks. And we need to start dumping where it begins is you have to make sure that Americans are educated and healthy. And we should make that a mandate. That should be part of our national security. As much as our military is, we have to make sure that our American population is the best educated and the healthiest in the world. And we're not doing that. We're not doing that. And until we start thinking in those kind of terms, we're never going to help everybody or anybody, because the root causes of all of this inequality has never been dealt with in this country. Never. Well, and that's what we have to start doing.
There's the big problem here is we have a situation where we're creating enemies out of another race of people or group of people because of this entire situation, when the real source and core issue is the same people are still in power. That hasn't changed. It's not changed that much at all. And that's where you're talking, Robert, where the systematic situation. Now, as far as the rest of it goes, I feel like we've gotten more of a class issue than we do a race issue now in America, now as opposed to 60 years ago, maybe, or 50 years ago, 30 even maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the economics of the Black community in the 60s. You know, you had a strong family unit. You know, that's gone away, and the income inequality for everybody has changed drastically. We're back to levels of income inequality we haven't seen in almost 100 years.
Well, that's my point. Is I don't think we have so much of an issue right now as a Black-white thing, or even a Hispanic-white thing, or anything like that, so much as the 1% are in control. That 1%, whether they're white, Black, Jewish, whatever, they're still the ones that are in control. They're the ones who are the ones that are controlling everything, period.
Playing all of us off each other.
Yes, because I've had plenty of bosses that were not white or women, or I mean that were women and or weren't white, or any of the, you know, and I've worked alongside people that weren't just white men and all that kind of stuff. And I've known people that were getting paid more than me when I was a white man working in the same job. It's that kind of a thing in the normal world outside of corporate America, Washington and Hollywood. That's the same. That's the only places where a lot of this systematic racism and sexism still exists. And these are the same people who are trying to point the finger and say, we need to change, when it really should be the other way around. It's like, no, you are the guys that need to make the changes. You're the ones in power. You're the ones who need to make things better for everybody, because the cream always seems to rise to the top. I mean, if it was, I'm not saying that there isn't a systematic problem, but if it was that bad, then Michael Jackson wouldn't be around, you know, would have never made it. Eddie Murphy would have never made it, and so on down the road. It's more of an issue of a class thing, I think, now than anything. It's like, unless you know somebody or you have money in your family, you're screwed. Yeah. And there is no middle class anymore. It's gone.
Well, look what Ahmed Best was tweeting out. He was trying to kind of paint the whole, you know, he's like, oh, I have all these degrees and everything. Meanwhile, Lena Dunham got a show on HBO. Well, yeah, Lena Dunham's parents were wealthy artists. She's very well connected. And look at so many people in Hollywood who are very well connected, like the Deschanels, or, you know, even Christian Slater's mother was a casting agent. And that's how he got a lot of jobs. I mean, you have a lot of people in Hollywood who are family related, old money, old Hollywood. They're, you know, J.J. Abrams' family, or was it Alex Kurtzman's? One of the two. They're like whoever's parents were lawyers or somebody. I think it might have been Alex Kurtzman. Entertainment lawyers in Hollywood. Of course, you're going to be well connected. You know, it's, for me, like, I have just as much chance going into Hollywood as nobody, you know, as everybody else, which is zero. It's slim to none, because I'm a poor white trash girl with no actual privilege whatsoever that I can tell anyway. And this is what really, really gets to me, is like, okay, you're really turning this into this whole thing. It's all about who you know, and it's Hollywood. I can't go in and get any special treatment in Hollywood, I guess is my point. I'm not going to get any more special treatment in Hollywood than anybody else. So that's what really pisses me off about all this.
Well, and not to switch this over.
Look, we got to switch topics. No offense, but this is really not what the show's ever been about, and people are
No. Yeah, we need to. I was just going to kind of say.
I was saying this
that.
is. I'm not trying to ruin it for everybody, but this is not really what we're talking about in general. All I was asking for is a straight up. Do you think they should put disclaimers on Gone with the Wind, and when does it stop? Now we're getting into this conversation.
No. I look to go back to that question. I think the Gone with the Wind. I really loved what they did. I love the woman who did the disclaimer. I thought she's a film professor. She contextualized it. I thought she did a great job. I thought that actual disclaimer was exactly what it should be. And I have no problem with that at all. And even she came out with talked about the importance of the film to film history. And if that's the way it's done, I don't have a problem with that. I really don't, because I thought she did a good job. What scares me, though, is when does somebody decide that a disclaimer isn't enough?
Thank you.
I always come back to, like, one of my favorite movies in the world is A Clockwork Orange. It's about one of the great anti-heroes of cinema, Alex DeLarge, and we spend the first half an hour of that movie watching him rape, beat up, and eventually straight up murder a woman. Now, when is somebody who's totally offended by this movie, or when, as a survivor of one of these horrible acts, going to come out and say, this movie glorified, you shouldn't be able to see this movie? And the moral majority or the moral police come in and say, you're right. We're going to take this movie away. And we're even a disclaimer. This movie needs to go away because it's too hurtful for some people to know it exists at all. That's what scares me. We've already been down that road, but I think that we are living in a world where we have people that don't believe in free speech in this country anymore. We have especially younger people that have no problem canceling. You could have a lifelong career of movie making, and someone comes along and says, you've offended me, or you are a bad person in this one way, and we're going to destroy your life's work because you've made me feel bad.
Oh yeah.
And where's the police that are going to stand up for those people, that are going to stand up for, Stanley Kubrick has always been accused of being misanthropic anyway. He's my favorite director. And what people don't understand about him is I think he loved humanity. And when he tells stories like A Clockwork Orange, he's basically trying to say things to us about what is really important in life. And what that movie happens to be saying is that it is more important for a human being to have free will and choose to do evil than it is to condition a human being and take free will away from him or her. Now, that is a difficult lesson to learn, and it's a difficult lesson to swallow, but he's right. He's right, but there are people now that would be like, no, we need to turn everyone into Clockwork Oranges, where they're programmed to do what we want them to do so they don't do bad. And I think the real danger is that we have people now that think that these ideas, or if they're made uncomfortable, that somehow their feelings are more important than the basic human truths that we want to live our lives under. And it's fucking scary.
Right. And that gets back, before we went down that rabbit hole, there was a point I was going to make with the superhero thing. And I'm sure where they're going to go with this is superheroes are fascist and all this other business. And I mean, we could just start off this by going, first of all, they're vigilantes. So the fact that you're trying to, put them side by side with a cop makes no sense, or correlate them with a cop makes no sense.
This whole article was just to attack white men again.
Well, right. And that was going to get me around to the other point, was like, look at this whole thing with like taking John Wayne's name off of the airport. They've been talking about that for a while. Look, if you listen to some of the people who are trying to make the argument, going back to what Robert said to the very beginning of that whole thing, the way they see it, they, as the ones who are trying to do these things, is that John Wayne was basically nothing but racist 24/7. Like, he just went around splurring, racist comments and was white power this and white power. No, if you think that that's the way he lived his life, then you're just a sad, sick person. In fact, John Wayne came from a time that was very racist, and some of the views that he had were definitely racist. But you know what? There was a lot of views he had that were very progressive for the time.
And he hired people.
And that was my next point I was going to make. And then the same thing here kind of goes along with, like, you know, the same thing with superheroes. The moment you try to make them out to be something they're not, is where we're getting too over the line here. I mean, they're fantasy characters. Anyway, sorry, go, Jeff.
I think it's convenient, though, that you shit on the Punisher, Superman, and Batman, but a new kind of hero with Black Panther, all of a sudden it's like, okay. See, this writer right here is very biased, because we don't even take into account, first off, this is all fantasy. There aren't real life superheroes. You know, if you're going to talk about doing stuff with the police department, that's fine. We talked about cop movies last week. 90% of the shit movie cops get away with, they'd be fucking fired or in jail on charges. Look at Axel Foley. He broke the law. You know, it'd be a great twist on Beverly Hills Cop, Tom. Let's remake it, but where Axel Foley's a crazy cop going after Victor Maitland, and Victor Maitland was innocent the whole time. That'd be an interesting movie to make. But my point is, Briggs and Murtaugh, they're fun-loving guys. They break the law. The bad guys are even worse than they are. It's all meant to be fun and fictional. And that's why, you know, Robert, we're talking about Marvel movies breaking records left and right, can't be touched. If we start going down this path, this is what I was trying to get with. You give them an inch, they take a mile. It's always offensive. It's always, we need to do this, we need to do that. Look, if anybody says I need to do something, they need to shut up, because superhero movies are fun. Batman movies are fun, Superman, Punisher, all this stuff. And guess what? At the end of the day, they're not real. They're not what's going to happen in real life, because we don't have superheroes out there that need to be regulated. This isn't a Superhero Registration Act. This is, you know, Superman. I was going to do a video around the 4th of July, but I really don't give a shit right now. But I was going to do this thing about Superman because I read this really great story. It was Paul Dini and Alex Ross that did the artwork. And it was about Superman trying to fix world issues. And Superman had the greatest thing. It's like, you know what? People are people. We need to take care of it. This is, you know, they're trying to bastardize Superman. They try to ruin Batman. They do all these things. And it pisses me off as a fan of all these things, because nothing is sacred anymore unless it reaches, or unless it checks off specific boxes for specific people that don't spend money on it. It's just going to be thrown to the wayside, because we're in this weird bubble right now of everything needs to be changed. We need to raise society and we need to build it back up again. Do we, though? There's a lot of good going on, but we don't glorify it. We talk about terrible shit.
That's the, you know, there's a book I always tell people to read, and it's by an Israeli historian named Yuval Harari, and the name of the book is Sapiens. It's basically the 100,000-year history of mankind, where we came out of the muck and where we are now. And his point at the end of this book is that humankind, is in a better place now than we have ever been. Sure, is there horrible shit going on in the world? Yes, but there's less of it.
Yes.
There's less poverty. There's less famine. There's less of everything. We're technologically more advanced. People are better off. They're living longer than they've ever lived. That humanity is better off now than we have ever been. And it's something that I think we tend to forget. There is more equality now than there has ever been. Does that mean that we can't still make more progress? Of course it doesn't. But we're better off now, and it's almost like we've forgotten this. And now we live in such a luxurious time of plenty that people now have it is a privilege to sit down and write an article for Time complaining about the portrayal of superheroes. Really? That's what you're going to get? Of all the remaining problems in the world, you're going to write an article about how superheroes are problematic?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
What about other things like climate change, or what about other things like income inequality? But no, let's tell people that superheroes and their portrayal in movies are bad and problematic. Really? I don't think any kid who's 6 or 7 or 8 years old that sits down for the first time and watches Spider-Man Homecoming are you going to take that pleasure away from them? You know, it's so ridiculous that people are even writing these kinds of articles. You know, we're re-examining how we portray cops on screen. Now it's time to talk about superheroes. Really? Does that mean the Arthurian mythos are off limits now because they're made in England, where it was mostly white people? Like, where are you?
Almost.
Which stories are we gonna? What's going to be left? What's going to be left to tell? I mean, the population of the world, if you start looking at it, why aren't we all watching Bollywood movies? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Well, I remember.
I don't like musical numbers in my movies.
But I mean, these articles. It gets to the point where it's so irksome to read this, and you know, I'm like, what caused her to? I don't know this woman, Dr. Eliana Doctorman. why did she decide to write this article? Like, what possessed her to? Did she watch a superhero movie and have a horrible reaction to it?
I don't.
Well, that was where I was going to go. Is I don't think these people actually watch superhero movies. That's the first problem.
Well, and another thing too, like let's say in the real world you're calling for more oversight, or not oversight, but you're looking for stronger, you need to control the police force, X, Y, and Z, all this other shit that I don't want to talk about. But in the superhero world, they have that kind of stuff, and it goes to show you like S.H.I.E.L.D's corrupt. Any power can be corrupt. So sometimes a person taking the law into their hands is the only way shit's going to get done. You know what? If we go back and look at this picture, this is from BVS, but let's go to Man of Steel. If Superman didn't step up and stop Zod, Ursa, and Non, or whatever the hell they're called in the new one, the world couldn't handle that shit. So in the context of the story, you need that vigilante. Do you think Superman needed to go get trained, get approved, do this, do that? No, he needed to save the world. Did everyone die? Did everyone get saved? No. Did people die in the process? Yeah. But he saved the world from being terraformed. All this crap that these people are doing, they suck the fun. They're a vacuum cleaner of just boringness. They just take all the fun out of your thing, all the color, all the excitement out of these people just need to read books about whatever they believe in, sit in a circle, drink coffee, wear their whatever, and just stay away from the shit. They're the fun police. I mean, anybody in the chat appreciate articles like this? Do we really need to re-examine what does Iron Man bring to the table that's so negative for 2020? What does Captain America? The thing is, Captain America right now, because it's such a politically charged time, he's the victim. They tried it in the comic books. People pushed back. He's not a shield. He's not a Hydra agent. He's Captain America. He's supposed to represent the best of the best. But it just goes to show you that entertainment like this is always attacked because people on both sides of the aisle can enjoy it, and you gotta change it. You can't let anybody have fun that doesn't agree with you 100%.
Well, this article is really interesting. She writes, the Punisher is representative of a larger problem in superhero narratives. A problem for whom, I want to know. But that's what she says. When Batman ignores orders and goes rogue, there's no oversight committee to assess whether Bruce Wayne's biases influence who he brings to justice and how. Heroes like Iron Man occasionally feel guilt about the casualties they inflict, but ultimately empower themselves again and again to draw these moral lines. Clearly, the entirety of Civil War does not jibe with what she just said. And like you said, Tom, did she ever watch this stuff? Has she ever looked at this stuff? I mean, it's unbelievable to me that we get these op-ed pieces by people that, and by the way, if they do sit down and watch this stuff, they're only going to see what they're looking for. They're not going to see what is also in these films. And it's frustrating, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think Jeff, you just made the point too. Like the cops in most of these movies are portrayed exactly the way that a lot of these people are trying to have the cops portrayed right now. 9 times out of 10, they're corrupt and whatever, like Commissioner Gordon's the only good cop I can think of.
Look at Batman Begins. You had to get what's his name, the guy with the beard and the long hair. He was on the take. You had Eckhart in the first Batman movie. He was a dirty cop feeding information to Jack Nicholson. So I mean, it's always these stories where it's like when the law isn't enough, one man, or in the case one was. The weird thing is too, a lot of the female superhero films are usually like Black Widow is an agent of the government to a degree. So she's like, she's got the approval to do what she does, even though it's some of the darkest, dirtiest shit. Same thing with Captain Marvel. She's a soldier, and then she's a soldier in some army from the future, not the future, from space. So that's why I say, like, when one man takes law into his hand, we'll use Spider-Man, my favorite. He not only is a vigilante, but we get to see from his point of view all the good he does, what he has to lose, what he sacrifices. And then you got a douchebag like J. Jonah Jameson, who, in my opinion, is Spider-Man's greatest enemy because he causes him the most. Because the thing is, look at all of us on YouTube, everybody. You could be innocent of something, but in the court of public opinion, even if it's lies and garbage, you're going to be guilty in the court of public opinion. J. Jonah Jameson.
In a day, your whole life can get wrecked.
Look at Johnny Depp.
Yep.
Right?
Well, look at Robert Meyer Burnett.
Well, I was going to say, yeah. Well,
by the way, this article, after the thing I read, she goes on to say, most of the blockbuster Marvel and DC Comics movies skirt the issue of who should define justice for whom. Captain America Civil War and Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice briefly float the idea of superhero oversight, but both devolve into quip-filled CGI fistfights. In fairness, the Civil War storyline in the Marvel Comics more thoroughly plumbs the depths of the socio-political debate. What's more, given that the creators and stars of these movies have historically been white men, it's hardly surprising that so few reckon with issues of systemic racism, let alone sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and other forms of bigotry embedded in the justice system, or the inherent biases these superheroes might carry with them as they patrol the streets or the universe. I would like to know, when you're fighting a giant purple Thanos who's going to snuff out half the life in the universe, how these characters are supposed to reckon with issues of sexism, homophobia, transphobia, and other forms of bigotry. And if she doesn't think that's there, it's inherent in these characters. And it's like you're asking them to not be superheroes anymore. You're asking them to be a different kind of a movie.
Social workers.
This is escapist fantasy. You know, I mean, how about the fact that in Avengers Endgame, you have Captain America dealing with an encounter group session with veterans, and there's a man in there talking about another man, you know, that they went out on a date, and Captain America says, "That's good, man. It's good that you're out there. It's good that you're, you know, living your life." I mean, I don't know how much of an Endgame they're supposed to spend dealing with issues of homophobia or bigotry, but I'd say that goes a pretty long way that they didn't cut that scene out of the movie. And does she give that movie credit in this article? No.
And you got to imagine if half the people disappeared, one of the last things people are going to be worrying about is who you're fucking. Let's be honest.
Nobody's going to care. And the thing is, why are you discussing that does every single story that exists have to now deal with sexism, homophobia, and transphobia?
That's what they want.
That's what they want, and I don't want to see that all the time.
If you're going to tell a story about World War II, you know, when someone's trying to stay alive, the last thing they're worried about is those kinds of things. And I'm a live and let live kind of guy. I will fight to the death for people's rights to be who they are. But in the context of a superhero movie, when you're fighting Thanos, I'm like, come on, there is a time and a place. If you want to make a movie about those issues, go make a movie about those issues. You know, but when you're talking about superhero films, I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's like not every single, what do I say? I always say, don't put your agenda before your characters and your story, because you'll never tell a good story that way. And at the end of the day, if you're telling a superhero story, and you know, superheroes were created by white men like Superman, Joel Siegel and Jerry Siegel and Joel, what is it? Schuster and Siegel. I can't even speak. They were Jewish immigrants, you know, and they created the Superman as a power fantasy for themselves. It was wish fulfillment for
an
themselves.
Allegory for Moses, yeah.
And all of that. And are you going to tell them that, oh, they shouldn't have done that? People can only know their own experience of the world. And it's like not every single story has to deal with every single agenda. It's not all of that. I mean, what you want to do, you have Captain America subtly, they have a whole scene in that film that they didn't have to put there that actually does address this issue in the context of Avengers Endgame. I mean, that would never have happened 20 years ago. And that's progress. And that's pretty neat that they did that. And it's a pretty great little scene, and they didn't have to put it in the movie, but they did.
I wonder if they cut it out in China.
Yeah.
Or in Dubai.
Probably.
It's nice to give Marvel a pat on the back, but all these places have double standards. Star Wars can't have the two women kiss at the end of The Rise of Skywalker. They cut out Finn from the poster and made him super tiny. It's nice to, you know, to put out this public image, but these companies don't practice what they preach. And I, for one, personally, can't give them any credit for any of this stuff, because if they believe it, they have to believe it 100%, and they have to take the loss. They have to take the risk. You don't get to cut it out depending on what your market is. It's like, well, we can't offend the sensibilities. That's dumb. That, to me, it's just like, well, they're telling you one thing but really doing something else. It's a false platitude. That's what a lot of this stuff is to me.
Mm-hmm. See, this just reminds me, like, I have this theory about all these women who write these type of articles, and I just think that they're just mad at daddy, and they're mad that this movie isn't about them. It's not for them. It's not what they want to see in a movie. So they have to go and just complain and nitpick and find a reason to hate it, because we have this no negativity culture where they can't say something like, hey, I don't like superhero movies. And especially if she was probably assigned to write something that compares superheroes to the police or something for some social commentary or whatever. And she probably doesn't want to admit that she doesn't like it. And this is the whole thing. They're mad at daddy because they have to get out there and work. So they have this anti-male sort of attitude because they have been told all this time from Disney and everything that, oh yeah, a man is going to come and rescue them. A man's going to come and save them. And what happens? They have to go out there and work for a living. And they can't just go around behaving like a bunch of bratty Karens all the time and a bunch of bratty children. So they have these chips on their shoulders. They get online, they get whatever, they go nuts, they complain. They're like, you're just a this, you're a that. And you know what? It just sounds to me like she wants to watch a movie that is not a superhero movie. She wants to watch one of these movies.
A social commentary, yeah.
She just wants to watch all these agenda movies. She wants to watch a movie about a bunch of people talking about their identities for 2 hours. And you know what? More power to her. Let her do that. Superhero movies are not for her, but they're not
made for you.
To her either. It's just you can't put everything in every single movie.
No, you're 100% right. And that's what this article is basically saying is, and I feel like that's what it's gotten to is they basically want, and that must be what they do all day long. You're right, Mecca, is just sit around and talk about what they identify as
pronouns in the bios,
pronouns and all this bullshit. And it's like, really, if that's your life, and the same thing with the racism stuff. It's like, if that's what you're going to sit there and dwell on all day long, then I pity you. That means you must have a really boring and stressful life. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it. Because, I mean, superhero movies are fantasies, first and foremost, like Jeff said before. They're in most cases just for fun. And the few times you get things like Watchmen and all that are actually trying to make some kind of social commentary, fine and dandy, but guess what? Still at the end of the day, they're fucking stories about people in tights. And I'm not trying to make it sound like the whole, like wizards in space thing, but it's true. These are fantasy stories built on fantasy elements, and it's just as silly as going after Dirty Harry and all these other cops and cop movies. They're not real people. If real people existed like these, then obviously we'd have bigger problems to worry about than the social bullshit. They just want our superheroes to be social workers.
Well, but it's such a weird thing because, you've also got storytelling tropes that are ancient, that go back into antiquity and into human history. And the idea of good fighting evil is something that's it's so sort of baked into us, into human culture. And the thing is, why do we like to tell cop stories? Because within the framework of a police, we don't have knights in shining armor anymore. We have cops, or we have secret agents, or we have FBI agents, or we have institutions that are built to go after the bad guys. And even though, these stories, it's this idea that all cops are bad is a weird idea to me because I know a lot of police officers and law enforcement. I've actually worked with some on projects up in Portland where I've been doing this medical lecture series where I met a lot of local Portland SWAT officers and their former military and all of that. And they were great to work with. And they were donating their time for this medical series that saved lives. And it's like the fact that we've now vilified our law enforcement people, is crazy to me. Mm-hmm. And our society is not mature enough not to have some kind of law enforcement. I wish we didn't need it, but we do need it. And this idea, law enforcement is not an easy job. And we expect so much from our police. And I agree, there needs to be police reform, but we can't expect in a world where other people are carrying guns and you've got insane people on the streets and you never know what's going to happen from 1 minute to the next until we live in a society that is absolutely 100% safe and all of the mental illness that exists in the world has been treated well. And we need police. We need law enforcement, and all of these problems need to be dealt with in a very holistic, three-dimensional way. And when you read these articles about let's get rid of cop movies and let's get rid of superhero movies, it's like, do you really think that's going to solve a problem?
No, that's exactly the point. Yeah.
Entertainment is entertainment, and the whole point is you want to watch something. Entertainment is usually about how the world we want to live in can be. Star Trek is about a bright, until the last 3 years, but was a bright, shiny future that I hope we all get to. Now, I don't watch Star Trek and think you know what? They're really not dealing with our current social issues the way they should be right now. I mean, no, it's escapist fantasy entertainment, and there's nothing wrong with that. And they make it sound in this article that there is something wrong with it. There's not. There's just as many, go watch an independent movie like Moonlight that won Best Picture. I mean, there you go. Does that need to be? Why not sing the praises of the movies that do these things instead of like tearing down the movies that aren't doing those things because they're not supposed to be?
Well, the answer is pretty clear. It's that they glom these ideas onto whatever's popular and trendy when everyone else is going to the theater to watch everyone fight a purple villain with a golden glove. Somebody like this is sitting back thinking, how can I co-opt my crap onto it and just ruin it for everybody? That's really what it is, because these are issues we're bringing into the conversation. Things aren't even a part of the conversation. It'll be like in the middle of an auto mechanic's guide. It's like how to make flan. Like, what the fuck? I'm here to fix a Toyota and not make you a dessert. They just keep putting things that don't go together. And then when somebody complains, they go nuclear and they blame you for something that you're not, or they call you something that you're not. I mean, it's just the same approach with Star Wars and other geek culture properties, but now they're trying to take the academic approach. They're trying to hide behind Time magazine. This article's trash like everything else. This, to me, has as much weight and validity as We Got This Covered or a Mike Zero video or any other crap out there. It's just a bunch of shit, and nobody takes these things seriously. And it hurts people that do have real life issues, because people see this kind of crap co-opted into their everyday normal stuff, and they become dull to it. They lose the sensitivity, like Renard from The World Is Not Enough. He can't feel anything. People are not feeling things anymore because they're beaten over the head with it so much.
Nice Bond reference. Nice.
You're gonna have to wake up early in the morning to beat me on James Bond references. I love me some 007. It's not even
I think
covered on the channel because no one cares, but that's my favorite thing. More so
I'm a huge James Bond fanatic.
I couldn't agree with you, though, 100% more on that, Jeff, that this article is really like We Got This Covered level type shit. What is it doing in Time magazine? What the hell? I mean, that's the problem I have here.
Isn't it?
Yeah, this is like a Mary Sue article. Definitely. There you go, Mac. Because what business does this article have doing in Time magazines? This is a splotch on Time as far as
what it's doing there is that we're talking about it now.
I know, but you know what? We would have been talking
been
about it whether
suckered
if it was in Mary Sue, but we'd be making fun of it. But that's the problem. I think that's what Jeff's getting to is now that it's hit Time magazine, now that it's in something that we actually do take seriously, that's the problem. Is this conversation has gone from just us griping a little bit about it to the shit serious now. Because just like with the superheroes, just like with the disclaimers and all that kind of stuff, where does it end now? We've already let stupid go so far. They've already started cutting things out of movies. What's next? They're going to come knocking on our door and start trying to take my Blu-rays out of my hands.
They'll get your Amazon order forms for the last 20 years.
Exactly.
the thing I want to say about Time magazine is, who did they nominate for Man of the Year in 1938?
Wow, that publication. I'm not going to sit here and argue that Time magazine probably hasn't gone downhill.
But again, I would say, okay, to pillory them for that, though, the world didn't know everything that was going on at the time. America turned their back on certain things, and we wouldn't admit to certain things. I mean, hell, there was a Nazi rally, American Nazis in Madison Square Garden. There's a really interesting documentary about that. And that's why it's so weird. What I find so frustrating about the time that we live in is there's so little understanding of history when you're talking about all these things. Everybody's talking about something they want to happen right now based on what's happening right now without going back in and looking at the rich history of humanity. We have, forget the horrible things that we've been doing to each other for the last thousands of years. But all of these things, there's been elements of these things happening over and over again. And everybody acts like they're the first, like this woman who wrote this article, she's the first person to ever think about the fact that, comic books are comic book characters need to be changed. Well, seduction of the innocent. There was a whole movement. Yeah, all of that. People wanted to get rid of it and ban comic books. And it's like, where's the talk of the fact that we have families going to these Marvel movies? They can bond and watch them together. It's something they can all do at once. The sheer fun of that, the sheer joy that these movies have brought to the world. And you're going to go say, they're not doing enough for whatever agenda is topical today. when really people are better off. All people are better off now than they were, say, 20 or 30 years ago. And yet everybody wants to. Why are we all being victims? Why don't we take advantage of the great time that we live in and go do awesome shit? You know, no one's stopping you from going and doing something awesome. Go do it.
Speaking of awesome, before we hit some super chats, Jeff, did you want? Yeah, there we go.
I was wondering who that was. I was like, oh,
Who
no,
that is? That's Arsenio Hall.
I see it. Yeah, I'm ready.
You
for
know
that
what movie that is? That's
Coming to America too.
To America, and there's Leslie Jones, and
you killed the mood. This is Ghostbusters.
here we go, folks. Are you ready for this one? Eddie Murphy.
See, and you know what's really funny?
Man.
Who isn't excited about Coming to America too?
Some idiot who's just not. Who wants
I
to
love
Karen.
Coming to America, and I mean the fact that that the world is waiting for Coming to America too. That says a lot.
In August, we're getting in August now too, instead of November. I think is what I've been hearing.
Maybe.
Well, yeah, the big maybe, but they yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to jump off of. I didn't realize how late it was. I have to jump off. But thank you for letting me mouth off. I very much appreciate it.
Well, it was nice talking to you, man. Do you have anything you want to promote or plug on the way out?
A horror movie that I made, The Hills Run Red, came out on Blu-ray finally, and we did 6.5 hours of special features for it. So check that out. You can get it wherever. Get it from Amazon, or you can get it from the Shout Factory. Get it from their website, shoutfactory.com.
I like Shout Factory. I buy a lot of my horror movies from there, especially my Halloween 3 Deluxe Edition.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, well, they put out our film's called The Hills Run Red. It was a direct-to-video film that came out in 2009, but I developed it, I produced it, we shot it in Bulgaria, and then Dave Parker, the director, and I, while we were sheltering at home, created 6.5 hours of new special features that no one's ever seen. So even if you don't like the movie, if you're interested in how movies are made and the story of how it got made, there's a lot of, 6.5 hours. It's that alone. It's like going to a film class for a couple weeks.
Nice.
So check that out.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me. I will see you all around.
Here.
So let's see the audience. Yeah, they're here.
What do we got for super chats? Yeah.
So let's see.
Sexual chocolate. We got
everybody. Let's see. Blah 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 blah. Commander Pluto. We read his. Thank you. Canceled Venom asks, why does Tom's voice give me Sith nipples?
What are Sith nipples?
I'm guessing they're going to make your nipples as hard as Darth Maul's horns.
Oh,
which is cool with me.
Does that mean he likes sexy voice?
I just wonder if does Darth Maul have to have his horns trimmed? Is that a thing he does?
I thought because now he's the same race as that devil horn looking dude in the first Star Wars movie, right? He just got all the tattoos and shit.
I don't think so. No,
I thought somebody told me that once.
Because that guy only has 2 horns. Darth Maul has like what, 6 or 9 on his head. I don't know. But yeah, canceled Venom. If that gets you off, Tom, say something to canceled Venom. Just say canceled Venom, hello, or something like that.
Canceled Venom. Are your nipples hard?
There we go. Jeffrey Turner Mega Jetty 1, thank you very much. He says, sent Jesse 2 DMs on my Vader and Leia ideas. Well, Jesse will check those out. I'll have her tell me what you said, man. Thank you.
He's the same race as Hellboy.
Dude, that new Hellboy, I couldn't even get into it.
I watched like 5 minutes of it and I turned it off. I couldn't take it.
The thing that bothers me is you had this really fun early series from Del Toro. I like the first one, not really the second one as much, but it's better than the 5 minutes that I kind of gave the new one. But why is it Hollywood's prerogative to take something good and ruin it? You think, we're doing it to save money. The thing is, these IPs and brands have some weight and value, but the people that went to see Hellboy, like Ron Perlman and Del Toro's directorial style, you had Abe Sapien played by Doug Jones, and you also had Selma Blair's character, which I'm blanking on her name, but you had these people buy into this stuff. It's like,
yeah, it was well established.
And it was fun. This came out, Hellboy was 2004? And people like to say before the MCU or Christopher Nolan took over for Batman, there weren't good superhero films. I say bullshit. You had Spider-Man 2 that year, which is still the best Spider-Man.
Yeah, a lot of them. That's just...
they were few and far between, comparatively speaking. Even the comic themselves were few and far between. But I mean, back in the day, you had some stuff that was adapted from a graphic novel. Like I think American Splendor was a film. They also had Ghost World. You had
Road to Perdition.
Yes, Road to Perdition. That's Tom Hanks. That was a well-received movie. He didn't win an Oscar for that one, but
I think it got nominated.
I think it's one of those types of films. I mean, I love the Marvel flicks.
Ghost World was another one too, wasn't it?
Dude, I own Ghost World on DVD. I've always liked Scarlett Johansson, so it's kind of the reason why. I think it's what Terry Zwigoff directed that film. So, yeah. People are like, oh, it's weird. I'm like, she's older than I am. Plus, whatever. Anyway.
Well, it's totally true. I mean, we had a false start with the original Superman films, and I think Supergirl really kind of killed that. And I wanted to say this during the article. It's like that article is a bunch of horse shit anyway, too, because if it wasn't for Superman 3, I would have never got introduced to Richard Pryor till much later in my life, and stuff like that. I mean, this whole stupid bullshit about superheroes and everything, right? I'm just getting tired of it. Anyway.
Well, Richard Pryor, that was my first Richard Pryor film as well. Yeah. And then I would catch stuff with Gene Wilder on TV, but
yeah, and then I think I seen the next one after that probably would have been See No Evil, Hear No Evil, so that would have been how many years later? So yeah.
Michael J. Cox is R&B. I'm sending Jeff money because you wore that shirt. I don't agree with KK being competent enough to manage a Jack in the Box night shift, let alone ...
Well, that's not true. I seen Bustin' Loose, and what was the other one he did? With kind of a half-ass kids movie. I seen those all the time on TV, and I only watched them because I recognized Richard Pryor from Superman.
I just want to give a shout out to people in the chat that say we're not reading the chat. Believe me, we've been reading the chat the whole time.
Trust me, yes, we are. Yes.
I'm more on your side than you guys think. But I want to highlight this one from Mappy Happy Chappy. The problem with the world is we've raised too many Veruca Salts and not enough Charlie Bucket.
Oh yeah.
I want it now.
Yep, yeah. I've been using that all the time lately.
Oh yeah, the world is full of a bunch of Veruca Salts, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I had that. Yeah, that whole argument on Twitter was fun. Brewster's Millions was a good one too. I didn't see that one until it was, I don't know. That didn't even come out to what, 84, 85? The Toy was another earlier one I saw, but again,
is that one of those movies they couldn't make today, though, Tom?
Oh fuck no! But but look how poignant it is. I mean, really, that's the sad part.
If it's poignant, it doesn't mean if it's relevant. It's only about what these people's feelings represent.
I know, and that's what's stupid.
Fuck their feelings. Their feelings are stupid, and they're stupid for having them.
I'm just reading those.
You know what George Carlin would say? Oh, you want a safe space? There's a safe space over there where nobody's having fun. Stay the fuck over there.
Yeah, fuck your safe space.
Your safe space is far away from the fun. Let us have fun.
We also have Lord Ian Malcolm that says Caesar's most humble human sunbeam just made $1 million. Good for you, Ethan. Good for you, man.
Congratulations.
Let's see. Andrew Cole says, yo, the people in the chat want a topic change. So did I.
We got a Nerdrotic raid, I guess, too, by the way.
Oh, it now?
A little bit ago here.
Oh, okay. Let's see. We also have Ooga Booga, who says, oh, it's okay for me to offend you, but don't you dare offend me, which is clearly this is a double standard in the world. Ooga Booga also chimes in with liberal double standard. There's a double standard everywhere, dude. A lot of these people that want to, that spout off these double standards, look in a damn mirror. Because the biggest problem in your world is yourself, not Superman saving people in a film. That it's too whatever. It's representative of something I don't believe in. So, Cancel Venom says, so I don't need to use the 3 seashells? Well, you had to earlier in this year because, we had a toilet paper shortage. So this has been, I don't know how to describe 2020. Would you guys describe it as the year of shit?
Yes.
Yeah. Toilet paper is the way to describe it. Just shit.
This is how I describe it. 2020, the year that gave us all a bag of dicks.
And they force-fed them to you. Even if you were full, it was like Mr. Creosote from Monty Python and the Meaning of Life. And you eat 1 mint and then you just blow up. That's what this year's waiting on. One little mint, an after-dinner mint, and then boom, we're all done. And I welcome the mint. Bring it on. Andy's mints. Who? York peppermint patties? Buttermints. Bring them on. I don't give a shit anymore.
Aliens. That's what we need. We need aliens.
I said this. Did I not say that to you, Jesse, yesterday?
Aliens?
I said I don't want us to go to war or anything serious, but if an alien invasion happened, I'd be like, that's what the world needs this year. Fuck everything.
Yep.
What? The world needs now.
It's funny how people are like, oh, to remain optimistic, but man, it's hard.
No what?
Yeah,
You're not wrong. I mean, look at the end of Watchmen. I mean, that's why I love that ending. It's so dead on, and it's even better in the film version because it makes more sense. But it's the same concept, It's aliens invade, destroy something, and we all unite as one. Instead of seeing each other as so separate, we actually kind of band together. It kind of felt like that in certain areas, in certain ways for a while there. We were kind of getting past a lot of this shit, like I've said before, but I don't know. This crap is it's a bunch of nonsense cooked up by blue-haired fucking whales in their basement who have nothing better to do. There, I just turned it against them.
I think, folks in the chat, do me a favor. Tell me how you can make 2020 worse. Give us your worst. Give us your funniest. I want to read it.
Don't you do it, Jeff. Fucked.
Let's hear it. You're
gonna kill Bill Murray or something. You know that, right?
I will cry. I'm tired of hearing about cancel culture. Did you guys, you know what? I want to talk about Disney for a second because it's something that we always cover here. Did you see what Anthony Mackie said yesterday? He was on a live stream with the guy from Snow.
Oh, yeah. And we call bullshit on that.
Well, the thing is, I think that Disney only does the things they do to look good for a specific period of time, like all these companies out here that, we'll change our icon for this movement. And then as soon as the next month hits, we go back to whatever. It's like Dion on the show says, if you believe something, you got to believe it all the time. No people of power in power these days do that. It's to look good to a small minority of people online for a specific period of time, and then we jump to the next thing. And the negative part of that is you get the goodwill for just a minute, but then one thing comes up. It's like, oh, you weren't nice to a PA, or oh, you didn't tip a taxi driver once or something. And I'm picking the most mundane things that you sneezed at dinner and didn't say excuse me or something like that. The other person can say, well, you didn't say God bless you, so it's rude. But my point is, you'll get canceled for the dumbest crap, and it's getting tiresome. It's almost, the way you take away these people's power, like I said on last night's stream, is you just ignore them. That's how they beat Freddy Krueger at the end of the first Nightmare on Elm Street. Not with the weapon, not crazy shit. Jason didn't come in and decapitate him. No. In the first movie, she's like, I don't believe in you. I take away your power. He melts into nothingness. That's what a lot of this shit needs to do. I do enjoy, the Fandom Menace. We get to call people out on their shit, like Rian Johnson's two-faced behavior, also their crap with these articles from Time Magazine. But
I said it earlier.
But at the end of the day, this stuff just go away.
Oh, shit. Time Magazines. That's what I called it.
So let's see. We have our friend Boag, who says, what about climate change? That exact same garbage that has been used to infiltrate and ruin entertainment. A nonsense problem blown out of proportion. You get what you ducking deserve. Or what you do King deserve. So I know you're talking about your Joker reference.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what you mean is like how that infiltrated movies. Is he inferring that the SJW-isms are doing the same now? Is that what he's saying? Or
Boag, if you'd like to clarify, please do. I'm going to go with maybe. For Nave, I've already looked into joining that service, so we'll be there. I'm going to look at folks. I'm going to be going away for a week to go see my mom for her birthday. We'll have some videos come up. Not going to have any live streams next week. When we come back, we'll have a couple new things in place to move into the next portion of 2020 to make our experience on the World Class Bullshitters channel much better for everybody. So,
well, they're coming up with some dark shit in the chat.
I'm reading it right now. I see, Monkey Jeebus is making me chuckle.
Well, a few of them are pretty good, but
Yeah.
some of them are pretty dark. It's like, you guys, come on.
Even something like Nat Your Average Nerd would actually hurt me. Japan retaliates against U.S. censorship by closing down all our sushi restaurants. I would be quite depressed at such a notion.
The really good one here. I saw. Where is it up here? I'll keep going. I'll find it.
No, but one thing, Boag, I want to say to you directly is the fact that Joker was the film that they, in quotations, didn't want people to go see. Didn't work. It beat their darling Star Wars.
RJ said, aliens announcing that bronies were the real chosen people. Take them away to the planet of milk and honey. Please do. That's not a bad thing.
Oh, they were going after the bronies. I'm not going to say, but yeah, they're going after My Little Pony now, I guess. Ugh.
Good. I don't know. No, I shouldn't say that. I don't like cancel culture. Cancel culture is cancer. Cancel culture is fascism, folks. Tired of it. Tired of it.
Andrew Cole, that is the cruelest thing you could have done to me personally. That's a personal attack. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull Part 2. It picks up right after the first film. It's the night at the reception. It's Indy and Marion's honeymoon. They go on a cruise ship. What's his name? Willem Dafoe has a bomb on the ship. If it goes below how many knots, it blows up. It's basically Speed 3 with Indiana Jones.
You don't know how to drive this boat. Get off my boat. Oh man, if they really wanted to end the Indiana Jones series on a really sour note, that's how they could do it, right?
They already ended on a sour note for me. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I agree. As far as I'm concerned, that fourth movie doesn't exist. So
yeah, like I said, I can't wait for this fall for South Park. Now, hopefully, South Park doesn't self-censor or get neutered by Comedy Central. This is the show I think common sense it needs right now.
Oh, they're already HBO Max went and deleted the same episodes that everybody else has. So,
what's the deal with the Golden Girls? That was the face mask
episode. Oh, Mecca, you posted that if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, it was the episode where Dorothy's son is going to marry the woman who's like 20 years older than him. And she like, well, Dorothy's white, the son's white, obviously, and the woman's black, but there's like the 20 years age difference that Dorothy's upset by. And then the woman's family comes over and they're like, yeah, we don't exactly want, this sort of marriage and stuff. So, but yeah, Rose is kind of a dummy, and Rose and Blanche are off putting on a face mask and stuff. And that's what they're saying.
Yeah. The basis of the episode was that Betty White's character just didn't like the age. She was more ageist. But the
no, Dorothy's kid, so
or Dorothy's okay, yeah. And then but the other family was the ones who was being racist. That was the point I was getting to anyway.
Yeah, they didn't approve of the interracial relationship there. So
Andrew Cole says, the chat is tired of this article and topic. I think the way that we approached the article was completely wrong and wasn't what was wanted. So I'm going to make a video about it. Choose to watch it, choose not to watch it. But I think something like this needs to be called and put on blast, because this is as stupid as shit about The Last of Us 2 or Star Wars or anything like that. Because, again, you got to draw attention to this kind of idea. So everyone, here's the thing. You don't need to shut these people up, because we're not about censorship. So I'm not about censorship at all. I'm not saying that this stupid writer doesn't have the right to say what they want to say. They do, but I have the exact same right to call them out on their shit, use facts, and then mix with my opinion and build an argument against it. That's what fucking lawyers do. They use precedents and laws. Yep. And they bullshit as well. I mean, very good friends with a lawyer. Believe me, I know how the game is played. If I could change something in my life, I might consider going to law school earlier in my life instead of doing this. Who knows? I'm kind of happy doing this though. I love, the freedom to what we get to do, the YouTube stuff, the comic stuff, all that good shit. So, but this is a topic that I find interesting. And I think in a different light, it's like this. If I took a steak and I rubbed it through dirt and fed it to you raw, it'd be nasty. But if I cooked it to perfection, it might be the best meal you ever had. So I think the topic is very good, Andrew. But like I said, the delivery system was all wrong. And personally, I'm not happy with a chunk of this episode. Tom, I've told you off air, it went too political for the way I like it.
I agree.
And you know what? I'm going to be honest with people. That's the thing we always do here on this channel. We're always honest with people. And I like Robert. He's a cool dude with a lot of insight. Do I agree with this shit? No. Does he do the chat? No, it doesn't matter. He can still have his opinion. I don't want him quieted or canceled or silenced. He's able to have all of his own personal thoughts, and that's awesome. That's where we live in America, where you can say these types of things for the time being. When it gets a little scarier is when they try to shut people up. So me personally, I can't allow that. But I can tell you guys that I personally am not happy with the direction of this episode. And when I come back in 2 weeks, we're going to go back to the fun old formula. And Tom and Mech, I don't want you guys to feel bad and feel like, I contributed to, ruining the High Council or some dumb shit. No. Everybody has a bad episode. My favorite show, Dexter, at one point had a bad season. So I'm saying, I just wanted to put that out there for everybody in front of thousands of fucking people, so people aren't thinking, we're changing the High Council. Because I saw some regular names go, I'm going off to do this or that. Awesome. If you don't come back, sorry you lost out on whatever we're going to do in the future. But I just wanted to put this out there for the people in the chat, because this is, we're still the Fandom Menace. We still have the fun stuff. I really don't want to go on to about, Doomcock's article in Mundane Matt and give him more clicks. Do you guys know? The guy's an asshole. He's done shit to people, and the fandom, my end of the Fandom Menace, we don't deal with that guy. I don't even talk about him in my private life. He's like Voldemort. I try not to think about him. Don't say the name. So, if we want to talk, we could talk about how Midnight's Edge covered it. I'd gladly talk about that. You guys definitely have a great take on shit, but I don't want to give that guy the floor. I don't think he needs it. He did what he did, and he has to lie in his bed right now. So... TLJ Screwjob says, but everyone, you don't know that Stan Lee was an Istinophobe because he wanted Peter Parker to always be straight and a white male. Hashtag slash sarcasm. TLJ Screwjob, the sarcasm tag was not needed. Clearly, I understand that. And that was the thing that people were worried about when he died. That was something that people put out there. And I was worried too, because you can't leave well enough alone. The fans of this shit are the fans of it for a reason. If you want to buy up a property, Disney, and ruin it, cool. Ruin it for people. Turn it into something else. Or you could just go the approach of let people have fun with this and go make your own thing and see. You can test the market if these beliefs and ideas work, because superhero movies work. You can have shit from Marvel, DC, Image movies. That's what Spawn is. You can have offshoot random things. That works. But when you try to make it appeal to whatever or infect it with whatever, it doesn't work. So that idea either needs to go away or let the market dictate, which it does, and stop pushing it. It sucks that big companies are going to buy up everything at once and have us buy the balls as fans, because if it's not Doctor Who getting bent over a barrel, it's Star Trek. If it's not Star Trek, it's Star Wars. If it's not Star Wars, it's comic books. And every character that doesn't appeal to a certain type of person is going to get bent over a barrel. The fact that Gotham High exists is an embarrassment. The fact that the new Warriors, the new Warriors, they were going to be a thing. That's an embarrassment. I'm embarrassed to be a fan of these things. Like I told you once before on the channel, folks, there was a time when somebody at GameStop said, "Are you a Star Wars fan?" And I said, no, because I don't want to be associated with the crap that Disney is making with Star Wars. So, let's see. What else we got? Go Big Borgome says, I'm Hicks. Jeff Hicks sips martini. Well, I don't have a martini right here. Go Big Boar, go home. I have some bubble water because I'm trying to, stay hydrated in the heat. Maybe I'll have martinis later. I could use a nice stiff drink. I'm fucking tired. Snell World says, can we get a release of the movie Rad on Blu-ray? I'm surprised they haven't went after it, the toy or Soul Man. Tom, you're NECA? You like Soul Man?
I haven't seen it in forever. I don't remember if I liked it or not.
It's a bad-ish movie, but it's not. It's kind of
running great, but yeah, I don't really remember it enough to.
By the way, I have seen Lord of the Rings Ofernave. We watched them all many months ago. Jesse, when did we watch Lord of the Rings? February?
First weekend of March.
Okay, first weekend of March is when I saw Lord of the Rings. I liked them. They're fun. So that's all I can say is I enjoyed them.
I don't understand how censoring the past is going to solve anything. It really doesn't make any sense to me. And all these
babies feel better.
Yeah, all these disclaimers, all they do to me is make me feel like everybody's stupid.
Yeah. And the thing is, we're talking more about Soul Man than people talk about it nowadays, because it was a forgotten comedy that it made its money and then it went away. There are a lot of movies with.
Even then they said it was kind of offensive, but it was just whatever.
Yeah. If I didn't like Lord of the Rings, I'd be in a world of pain. I don't know if I'd be in a world of pain. I mean, the thing is, fantasy is usually a hard sell for me, especially with the dialogue. Lord of the Rings skirted that, especially with some of the names, but the action, the pacing, the visual storytelling kept me engaged. And I had a good time. I don't really have much to say. I saw a couple Harry Potter movies since then, too. They're fine. I mean, I don't really follow the trends with what's the most popular thing of each year. I'm not going to sit down and watch all the Hunger Games movies, but every once in a while you catch something that you missed and you're like, that was cool. And like this, I liked it and I'm done. Did I go out and buy the books? Am I going to read them? Hell no. Am I going to go buy Lord of the Rings action figures for myself? I am not. But they were good movies and I'm glad I saw them.
Rob just reminded me that James Earl Jones was in that movie. He's like, there's an important bit at the end of Soul Man. James Earl Jones says, you learned what it was like to be black. And C. Thomas Howell says, no, because I could stop at any time I wanted. So, okay. I don't remember the movie that well.
Oh, Jesus. I don't. I have it on tape. My dad, who was black, bought it back in the day. You must have liked it at some point in time to buy it, because I knew this isn't going to be a sad thing, but I don't mean for it to be sad. But he died when I was 6 weeks old, so I never knew him. So the shit I inherited from him was, because he was only 23. So I inherited a Nintendo, his collection of games and movies.
It just shows he had a sense of humor, man.
Yeah. So I mean, it's that's the only point of reference I have for Soul Man, but I think it's an interesting one to take because people.
It'd be better yet is if he had Blazing Saddles as well.
He had Silverado, so
that's a good one. That's a good one.
He did have Temple of Doom. That's how I discovered it. So and Blade Runner. So I mean,
he had good taste for the most part. So there you go.
We had one of those huge giant VCRs.
Oh yeah, little top loader.
Oh yeah, dude. Remember that like ribbon thing that was inside of it? I always looked at it. I was like,
Mhm.
what is that piece on the VCR? More Dark, I'm not comparing Lord of the Rings to Harry Potter. I'm saying these are popular franchises that I didn't see when they were new. I had no interest in magic. Up until a couple years ago, I thought magic in movies was stupid. It's like, you know what? Fine, go watch it. I don't want. That's not for me. So I'm not comparing them at all. That's me being taken out of context.
No, I'm actually in the same boat. I'm not a huge fan of the whole magic and mysticism thing unless it has a real basis in some kind of reality, like a superhero film, or even at least like the Star Wars films. Earlier on, you could believe the Force, even though it was some mystical, magical thing. George Lucas made sense in its simplicity in the original films. You
Well,
know,
it didn't seem so much like magic. It just kind of
yeah, more like a Buddhist kind of kind of thing. I don't know how you want to put it, but yeah, you know what I mean.
more metaphysical almost.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
For those of us get in the chat, I liked the Neil Blomkamp movie District 9. I still would like a sequel. Chappie didn't really like it. And did he do anything else?
He did that one with Matt Damon, and then he was going to do the RoboCop and the Alien movie, but both of them didn't happen. And then I do know, though, that District 10 has at least does exist in a form. It hasn't been filmed yet, but it's ready to be filmed, I guess, or the script is anyway, or something to that effect. I can't say too much about it, but
it's Elysium is the movie that
Elysium. That's it. Yeah.
You know what? I will say this. My mom, who's very like mild about everything. She either likes the movie, she doesn't, but she doesn't go into detail. She hated Elysium. She's like, I don't know what. Well, she's like, they're trying to tell me stuff about this and that. I'm like, Mom, you've basically made sure I'll never watch the movie. She's just like, she picked up on some of the heavier handed elements of it, and she was just like, she rolled her eyes. She hated that movie with a passion. I haven't watched it. Have you guys? What do you think?
No, that's his only movie I haven't seen. I love District 9, and I actually unapologetically love Chappie, but yeah, I heard something like that too, Anna.
Matt Damon.
Matt,
I might watch Team America to cheer up later.
I know. I got that on Blu-ray, but you know what sucks? It's only the R-rated version for some reason on Blu-ray.
Okay, so when it first came out on DVD, I
have it somewhere,
and I gave it a shot and I didn't like it, but I watched it since moving out here, and I was like, how did I not like this when it was out? But now I do. I guess it's just extended puke and love scenes. So I mean,
yeah, it's nothing that great, but none of the special features are on there, which kind of sucks. And I mean, I still got the DVD for all those reasons, but you know, just to have it, it's nice to have it in HD at least, you know. But
yeah, that's why, folks, pick up your favorite movies on home video as soon as you can. I'm not trying to give these companies.
Team America's problematic. That one will get hit.
Yeah, anything from Parker and Stone will get hit one day.
Update your VCR or not your VCR, your DVD player. Sorry, what we were talking about VCRs, and I'm old. Now, what if they update your DVD player to patch your movies like they do video games?
People think it might sound crazy, but you have to sometimes. They're like, what is it? The Universal movies on Blu-ray give you the new trailers. I hate that. I hate that so much. I don't want to look at. One of my favorite things about Dumb and Dumber is watching the opening series of commercials, or Batman '89 with the Warner Brothers ad and the Diet Coke commercial. Same with Temple of Doom not Temple of Doom. Same with Last Crusade with the Diet Coke commercial. Those are part of the movie to me. I love that experience. I hate when I turn on Back to the Future. It gives me a trailer for what is Ghostbusters 2016? That's Sony. It's just some random movie of the year that I don't want.
Some Fast and the Furious movie usually is the one I get.
It takes away like a little bit of the identity. Like I'm all about new picture quality. I don't want to go back to 480p and pan and scan, but I do love those little.
You know how you get around that?
How?
You just unhook the Wi-Fi or the cord from your Blu-ray.
Only problem is I watch all my Blu-rays on a PlayStation 4. So.
Just before you watch a Universal movie, then just turn off your Wi-Fi and then turn it back on when you're done. That's what I do.
I hate that. Man, that's back to.
I know it's an extra fucking step, but.
Yes, Crazy Wolf Studios. I've seen The Thing, 20 times. I fucking love that movie. Okay, fine. Since you asked me if I've seen The Thing, I hung out with those guys at a bar. TK Carter was there. We were talking to, what's the guy's name? What's the guy with the curly hair that was in The Warriors as well as The Thing? Tom something, right?
Oh, shit.
Point is, you know the actor I'm talking about. We all hung
Yeah,
out
I can't think of his name now.
had drinks at a thing called Days of the Dead. It was either 2012 or 2011 in Indianapolis. And that's why I always advocate for people to come hang out with us at conventions, because like we've worked a show and there was the guy from what's his name? William Atherton was there. Judge Reinhold. And
Tom Waits?
You get Tom Waits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy was cool too. So but yes, I've seen the thing countless times. But hey,
Thomas Waits, yeah.
if I hadn't, you could hold me to that. Let's see. We also have our friend Space Monkey 0899 that says Department of Defense released UFO footage.
Yeah, they did that a couple months ago, didn't they?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've seen some of that.
I usually I don't get all my news. I don't really follow every piece of news. A lot of this with these channels, you kind of have to keep your head down and just get shit done. Every once in a while, I'll hear a story on like a Joe Rogan podcast, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know about that. I think it's going to be interesting since he signed a deal with Spotify, right? That's who he signed his deal with.
Spotify.
I wonder if that's going to change the course of the show. Like in Wayne's World, remember when Wayne signed up with Benjamin? He had to change the whole identity of the show.
Yep.
So,
it's so
Dr.
weird.
Coffin, kind of a dick in general. So.
What was that?
You know, Dr. Coffin says Judge Reinhold was kind of a dick to my wife. Dude, Judge Reinhold was kind of a dick in general that day.
I've heard some stories about him. Yeah.
Because we have a big banner with World Class Bullshitters, and the name's weird enough that people come over and look at it. So, like, Tom Savini came over until Dion kept screaming sex machine at him and all that stuff. But Judge Reinhold comes over and I'm like, hey, I love your movies. And he was nice for a second. And then superfan Adam Shawhan pulled his phone out to do something. He thought he was being filmed, and Judge Reinhold just clammed up. And I'm like, ooh. So it doesn't change my thoughts on Beverly Hills Cop, but I'm like, nobody wanted anything from you for free, so I was kind of bothered. And then Dr. Coffin Nails goes to these things and gets autographs and all that shit, so it does sour me to certain people.
Yeah, it's sad to hear those stories.
Yeah. TLJ Screwjob says, worst 2020. Let's rip down the concentration camps.
They're talking about Gremlins in the chat. I don't know why, but I'm all for it.
Well, Judge Reinhold was in that. Remember, he was the
first one, yeah, but they were talking about Gremlins before that, I think. But unless that was the catalyst, I don't know.
Did you see the thing about the Gremlin series, the new thing they're talking about?
Yeah, was that what's his face who said something about that? He's always talking about it, but
yeah.
The interesting thing I know about the series is Joe Dante's involved now, so I'm more.
I think that's who they were talking about. I think I sent it to you.
I said actor, so I figured it was Zach Galligan because he's always saying shit.
No,
he's always hoping.
I can't remember. I think I just sent it to you. And
bless him, he's always hoping a Gremlins 3 is going to happen. So.
Yeah. We have our friend Jeffrey Turner, Mega Jetty 1, who says the climate change in movies is the Predator reference. Oh, it's a Predator reference. Oh, okay, duh.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't fit in the movies. Like I said, the stupid analogy I made about putting a flan recipe in the middle of a Toyota manual, it doesn't fit. It doesn't exist for a reason. So, Boag says South Park was already censored because of Muhammad. Okay, yes,
yeah, those are the episodes that have been pulled. Yeah, but they're on the Blu-rays and DVDs, folks. So,
so they will put them out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I've got them. I've got every single South Park episode. I made sure of that shit.
Lokio7, thank you very much for your super generous super chat. He says cancel culture is nothing more than a modern day version of Soviet strategy called shouting down. This is all part of the communist plot to overthrow the United States. The media is the fourth branch of the government. You know, your last sentence, the media is the fourth branch of the government, is not really a stretch. It's nothing like you don't even have to be thinking about conspiracies or be politically motivated. The media is way more powerful than it should be. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if you get, the court of public opinion is only what matters now. Sadly, facts don't matter. Opinions are more important. It bothers me that people are so riled up over crap. And it can ruin people's lives for, the smallest faux pas. Excuse me, somebody passed gas in an elevator and now they're canceled. And
it wasn't me, it was internet gas.
Yeah, I can't get behind cancel culture. And I will say this before. Again, I said this on our Patreon thing about Jimmy Kimmel. I hate Jimmy Kimmel. I hate his work. I think he's a hypocrite, but I don't think he should be canceled. You know what? His old jokes, the stuff he did, whatever. I think where I have a problem with him is how he acts like he's this moral superior to all of us. But should he be canceled? No, because I don't believe in cancel culture, and I believe in it the whole time. So there we go. Foul Ball Productions, thank you very much. Haven't seen you before here. Hail, he says. Thank you. Omegon 32, thank you very much. Sorry guys, but Hail Mecca and Rian Johnson can suck it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned the real quick. I was saying it's funny you mentioned the media because that was jumping off of a lot of that crap earlier today on Twitter and last night was where I finally got to the point. It's like y'all are just believing the media at this point. It's the media pushing this bullshit that that things are as bad as they really are when they're not, folks. I mean, that's the big problem.
It's that can be taken out of context a little too. I mean, I think they just like to push the most outrageous thing because let's take a random headline, for example, on, Golden Girls episode might be considered offensive to Golden Girls in blackface. Which one's going to get more?
Exactly. Well, no, and that's the point I'm kind of getting to is they went and created this situation like with the Joker where they're like, oh, don't go see the Joker. You're going to go kill somebody afterwards. If you're white and male, it's going to set white males off. They're going to riot. They're going to shoot everybody. They're going to kill everybody. Oh, panic, fucking panic. And then they fucking got everybody up into a panic to the point where we actually do have fucking rioting right now. And what are they doing? Oh, mostly peaceful protests. Fuck you, media. You are the biggest fucking hypocrites I've ever seen in my fucking life. Sorry, Jeff.
Don't apologize. You know what?
No, it's just like, come on. You sat there and told us that Joker was going to kill millions of people, right? And who do you think got everybody so fucking fired up right now where everybody's pent up, pissed off, and just ready to rage? The fucking media did it. And now they're trying to cover their tracks. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
No, don't keep apologizing. You're 100% on the nose. That's where the money is, the controversy, all this stuff. It's nothing about truth and honesty. That's why if there was a push for some kind of piece of entertainment that would bring people together, that's why I keep saying like a Superman movie is the perfect thing, a character that represents the best in humanity. But right now, everything
coming to get me, Jeff. Shit.
Dude, thought police. The thought police are here. No. And that's spelled with an OUGHT, not a THOT. This isn't Twitch. Which I guess
they're related to the Dream Police.
No, they're just related to the Police, the band.
They come at night in my head,
Oh God. By the way, folks, we'll be talking about Jesse. We're talking to Elasmat on your stream about comics, right? His comic.
Right. He's got a graphic novel. He's has an Indiegogo live for his graphic novel now. So we're gonna check in with one of the smaller creators of the Fandom Menace. Small but still mighty.
Yes, as Ethan crosses $1 million, guess what? There are tons of voices in comics with Fandom Menace. I'm sitting here at night signing these things. I had to wait. I ordered a special thing of these indestructible envelopes since the dicks in the mail service tend to bend the books. So I had to actually ordered a test. It's funny too when you buy shit in bulk. It's not like you can buy a couple to test something. It's like in Batman Begins when he had to order another 10,000 head pieces to make sure he could, maintain his secret identity. I had to buy 100 of these envelopes just to make sure everything would be perfect. And so, whatever, I'll talk about that on that stream. But yeah, it's interesting to hear people's different takes because comics. Everyone likes to say, "Oh, comics are dying, they're dying." Really, comics as a medium can live on forever. It's just a different form. It's a different series of voices that are going to tell a story. And you know what? When people could say a diverse comic, all it means is a diversity of thought. That means Ethan, me, Jesse, Anna, anybody that does stuff or produces work like that. That's what it is. So
that's the biggest fallacy right there, Jeff. Is all these people they think that just because somebody's white that doesn't mean diversity. That's an exact quote pretty much from Headland.
Yeah. Well, Leslie Headland is a flash in the pan. She got talked about for a couple of months.
Oh, yeah.
The show is just going to be gone.
Well, no, I just thank the Lord for her because you know what? She gave us basically confirmation of everything that you and Mecca and I and Midnight Edge and whoever else, Gary and all the rest of us and Doomcock have been reporting on all this time. There is a clear agenda. They're pushing for it. And they don't even understand their agenda. And they will change the definition just to suit themselves.
Oh, yeah.
These things are all confirmed now. I mean, there's no...
too. And if, somebody steps out of line, then that's when they change something. Oh, you said something we don't like because we don't like you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, who said it in the chat? Nat, your average nerd. I bought specialty stickers that say "Do not bend," so they're bright red. If they fuck up, they fuck up. So let's see. We also have. I'm reading more about the Judge Reinhold stuff. I don't want to bore people, but believe me, I'm glad people are putting it into perspective because it was just kind of a shitty experience. Maybe if we meet him again, it'll be nicer. I don't know. Let's see. Did we talk about Star Wars yet? Asked Shogun Ordo. We did. We talked about the Rian Johnson tweet at the very beginning of the show. There really wasn't too terribly much to talk about with Star Wars in regards to that. There's not another movie coming out. There's this rumor about them restarting Star Wars. What did you take away from it, Tom and Mecca?
Mecca?
Which one?
The rebooting of Star Wars.
Oh, the reboot rumor. You know, it doesn't surprise me if they're going to. Well, they remake everything anyway. I mean, it's more plausible for them just to flat out reboot it. Just starting.
I don't buy it.
One and moving on because you've already got the casting for Han Solo.
Well, here's the thing. I think if they could, they would. I don't think you're wrong there. I just don't think they can.
Yeah.
Because I look at it this way too. Like I keep saying, if they could release the original versions of Star Wars, why wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Because
they'll sell anything they can.
Yeah, I don't think, and not only that, I said this earlier on Stephen Walton's podcast. The moment they do that, they basically take away all and any real value a lot of the classic Star Wars had. Hence, you can no longer have the fan service that they're banking on and living off of right now. Because once you change that, then the other stuff isn't worth anything anymore. Bringing in certain characters isn't worth dick anymore. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the whole thing of bringing Khan into darkness. It doesn't make a fucking difference. It means nothing. It absolutely means nothing. So, and that's what it would be from here on out if they redid Star Wars. Oh, it's Boba Fett, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And the fact that they are bringing the actual Boba Fett into like Mandalorian, to me, tells me there's no plans to remake Star Wars anytime soon. They'll keep doing these stupid cartoons and shit, but I don't think they can, and I don't think they will. At least not in our lifetimes.
No, it's too soon. And what would you do? Because if you're going to go back to 7, everybody would like to see, the Thrawn trilogy put onto film.
Oh, you're talking about the last 3 films?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I thought they meant, well, because for a while there's been talk of them rebooting the actual original films too. That's what I thought Mecca and I were talking about. Yeah. As far as them retconning the new films, I wish they would, but if they use that mirror thing, it opens up a fucking Pandora's box. Like I said before, it opens up this thing where you can just use that anytime you want to fix a problem, and it's the worst thing that can happen to a franchise. That's why Star Trek is very, at least before it went to shit, was very what's the word I'm looking for, Mecca? They use the time travel sparingly, and they didn't make it very easy to do. Is that a good, accurate kind of description, you think?
Yeah, I think so, but
for that very reason, I believe. So it wasn't so easy to just turn around and go, well, let's just go back in time and fix this.
Yeah.
We'll just slingshot around the sun. Oh, yeah. No, I think the whole point they make in Star Trek 4 is like, we could die. But, it's like,
yeah,
we might make it, but we could die. Most likely we're going to die. But, it's like.
Well, I think if DC goes with the Flash multiverse route, on top of Marvel with the Doctor Strange and the alternate dimension thing that they're going to do, then Star Wars will try it. It'll be late to the party because Star Wars used to innovate and revolutionize not only filmmaking but storytelling in a certain way for Western audiences. Not Western audiences. Well, yes, because George Lucas took a lot of Akira Kurosawa plot devices, storytelling elements, mesh those together with a Western and all these other things. And that's what Star Wars is. It's just a melting pot of different storytelling techniques and ideas. You have your Flash Gordons, your all this other stuff. And then that's what gets you Star Wars. But nowadays, Star Wars just kind of rides off the success. At Star Wars, I hate to say it like this, Star Wars is the jock that peaked in high school. They're riding off the success of decades ago. Maybe there was a brief period of time in their life where they started to move in the right direction with the prequels and stuff and post-Clone Wars era, but then they went to shit, and now they're just saying, hey, remember when I was great back in the day? Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. That's what it is right now. Fake hair and all.
I love
and if to try to remake episode 7, 8, 9, that's what I've heard, like, you can't. Carrie Fisher's dead. So everybody wanted Han, Luke, and Leia. You can't get that. It would be different if she was around and willing, like they're all willing to. Because the funny thing is, everyone talks about Harrison Ford won't come back to Star Wars. He was back for episode 9. So there's everybody has a price, like the $1 Million Man says. But I don't think there's going to be any kind of remake or rebooting of Star Wars or anything like that. It's just, wow, I really hate this neighborhood. Anyway, it's just really a bunch of good intentions and a lot of wishful thinking, which I would like if those movies got wiped out of existence, but it just won't. Yeah. Like Thrawn trilogy would be a cool movie concept. We bought the one on Audible the other night. I'm starting to listen to it, but it can't be a thing anymore unless they turn it into a CGI movie or they do one of those weird deep fakes, which I am a proponent of on certain things, but it might be kind of weird if they haven't perfected it yet.
Well, one of you guys out there do it. That's how it's going to happen. Somebody in the ethos of the internet at some point is going to do episode 7, 8, and 9 that are worthy, and they'll be like animated or whatever, and it'll be out there, and the fandom will accept it as the canon or whatever at that point. But I've seen so many funny things today about, like, somebody made this comment on Twitter, speaking of Twitter, like earlier, where they're like, "Oh, I can't wait for 10 years from now when people start to really appreciate and love The Last Jedi."
That's not going to happen.
Denial.
Yeah, right. Inferring that, like, there's like this hidden like magic stone in that movie somewhere that just needs to be discovered, or what?
Well, that's because people were softening on the prequels after seeing how bad the sequels.
No, the difference here is you had kids grow. Now, okay, yeah, you may have kids grow up with these movies like they did with the prequels, and another voice come out of the fandom at that point. But how many people can it be? How many people can it really be?
Yeah.
How many kids were really turned on by Star Wars by these movies?
Kids don't watch Star Wars. If they did, the toys wouldn't be, in the dollar stores.
There were toys, yeah.
Another thing too, Lucasfilm would have had, or they should have had more video games if they're really trying to sell to the kids. If the argument is like with Star Wars, it's about moving the goalposts. It's like, well, if kids liked it, they would have sold more toys. Well, kids don't play with toys; they play with video games. Okay, where were the video games based on these new characters? Non-existent. You had Battlefront in 2015 to coincide with the release of The Force Awakens. Oh, you could get some skins of the character, but you couldn't. It's not a story of Episode 7. Okay, Last Jedi doesn't have any kind of presence in a video game, and then so that movie got Battlefront 2. That was a dumpster fire. The controversy surrounding it. I mean, the Hawaiian government got involved about gambling and all this stuff. And then you had what's the one that came out last year? Jedi Fallen Order, which people seem to like, and then you got this new one coming out. But where you can't really build an audience if you don't have anything for them to get into.
Exactly.
Because you're selling it as we don't want the old guys, but then everything we make appeals to the old guy. That's why there's still 3 3/4 inch action figures. A lot of people say, I'm still waiting to complete my collection or stuff like that. And that's why toy companies celebrate the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. What other 40-year anniversary do they give for toys outside of Alien? Nothing. Yep. I mean,
well, and that's a good point. And there's already like the Boba Fett figures from that anniversary line are going for like a lot online because they're getting bought up. I wish I bought the 2 that my local Walmart had. I went back the next day. I'm like, I'm gonna go buy them just so I can sell them, and they're gone. So I wish I'd have grabbed them.
By the way, Christopher Gorey, Sean Connery played Bond 9 years later. Yes, he did. He came back for Never Say Never Again. Not a great film. I don't know if it's better than Octopussy. I think Octopussy is the worst Bond film, and that's saying a lot for me. Connery came back even for Diamonds Are Forever. He seemed very disinterested. I will give him credit though and respect that he came back because he wanted all the back payment that he felt that he was owed for the producers making all the money on the series, and he was paid the same rate. And then he gave it to some Scottish education fund or something like that. So mad respect for Sean Connery in that regard. But Never Say Never Again. I don't know if you guys have seen it. I hate that movie.
Countdown to when he's going to get canceled though again because
For Sean Connery.
Yeah, because he said it's okay to hit a woman.
Too old.
He won't give a shit. He'll be like, "Go fuck yourselves."
I think if more people, they don't really go after people of stature and status. They go for people that no. Look, there's a certain level. What I'm trying to get at is there's a certain celebrity that transcends just that status. There's a mythical level. So for every like Johnny Depp is not there yet, and neither are a lot of these people. If you go for like a Connery or a Harrison Ford or some of these people that are just so iconic and that are old and don't give a shit anymore, that are too established, it's going to show that you could go for this big approach, and they're just going to go whatever. Because the stuff that people are getting canceled for, these aren't the most heinous offenses. Some of the things are really ridiculous. Old jokes, old comments, things that might have been culturally acceptable decades before, and the times change for the right reasons or sometimes the wrong reason, and then people get offended. So you can't hold things under a modern lens. It's like when people say, well, you can't look at the special effects of this movie and compare it to the Avengers.
Or the John Wayne thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I love the movie Inner Space. That movie looks great and looked great in 1987. If somebody said, well, Inner Space sucks because Avengers Infinity War has Thanos and it's so much cooler. It's like, you can't, that's an apples to oranges comparison, dude. That's not even
right.
a film. So,
yeah.
Let's see. We also have our friend Dr. Coffinails who said, I didn't think R&B was that bad, Jeff. You know what? He wasn't that bad. He's entitled to have his opinion, and we can have a discussion, differing take on stuff. I just thought
I love Robert. I mean, we have a lot of different opinions, and I mean, I wasn't even afraid to tell him I don't agree with his take on Kathleen Kennedy one bit. And we've even gotten a little bit more heated conversations. I mean, I apologize again, guys, that we tried to steer that back a little bit, but just, yeah.
You know what, folks? Just keep on coming back. We'll have a hell of a show. And you know what? The show picked up, too. I want to give a shout-out to everyone who's here tonight. We also have our friend Andres Fernandez, who says, Blomkamp loves to go poor/social class.
I just bought Inner Space. Thanks a lot.
It's a good movie. That's a great movie.
Wow, it's a great movie. I've been meaning to for a while. I'm just like, oh, yeah.
See, it's when Neil Blomkamp goes a little too heavy-handed that he loses me. Like, I always use the damn Twilight Zone, but it just always kept that balance. Balance is a perfect thing. Stan Lee stories kept that balance as well. Old comics. I was watching a great video on a comic book about an ex-Nazi who comes to America in the 50s, and he thinks he sees one of somebody he killed in the Holocaust, and how it I won't even spoil the comic, but it's such a cool, impactful story, but it shows the evils of that stuff without beating you over the head. Subtlety is a lost art, like they say in Goldeneye, the lost art of interrogation, the lost art of subtlety, folks, in the world. Our friend Matt G, thank you very much. He gives a super chat sticker of a cheeseburger. It looks delicious. Thank you very much, Matt G. Ian Slater says, take my money. Thank you very much, Ian Slater, for all the support you've given us. Ian Slater also says, good points, Tom. So, Tom, good points.
Thank you.
Now, Stone Cold Jeremy says, Tom, don't apologize. Don't back down. Stand up and speak out. We all need to. Respect. And he sends in 5 flex emojis and 5 beers. So, yes, we all need to high five and flex.
Well, I just didn't want it to get down the wrong road again. But yeah, no, all that other crap aside, I mean, the media needs to start being a little bit more accountable, period.
Yes.
I'm not trying to say, what was that, Mecca?
And a little less partisan, I think.
Well, that too. That's the big thing. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say they're the enemy of the people or anything like that. But I'm also not going to go to the extreme and say, oh, well, it's the media and they have the freedom of speech and the freedom of the press and all that shit. No, you have the freedom of those things, but you also have a responsibility to the people. And when you're creating events and problems like the Joker, for instance, and I blame a lot of the recent events that have been going on to the media. There's no other way to chalk it up, because they fired everybody up. The situation that set this whole thing off happened like a week or two before. The media had a slow news day. So what happened?
Yeah, no, speaking of the media, our friend Timon FLP says, one of the worst things to happen in the Western world was the creation of the 24-hour news channels, when the news became entertainment and it all went haywire.
And you needed news to fill 24 hours. That's a great point. CNN, Fox News, all of them. They're MSNBC. That's the worst things that ever happened to news.
Mech 1164 says, no, if they fail 7, 8, and 9 to Legends, when they do that, the next Star Wars film will have Luke come back and give him a great battle to properly sacrifice himself. That can be Force Ghost Luke to help. Then he can be Force Ghost Luke to help. Excuse me. That car outside agrees. Like I said the other day, we watched Empire of Dreams, this really fantastic Star Wars.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I recommend it to every person in the chat, every person that likes movies in general, because it paints George Lucas in a very humanistic, like very human light. And even Harrison Ford says, I think George is a warm person. He's a people person. He cares about people, but he just doesn't get how to talk to actors. I don't think George Lucas necessarily gets how to talk to the public. I don't think he's this. Look, a lot of artists are introverted. Not every artist is Ethan Van Sciver. Ethan is lucky because he's talented, but he's also a world-class bullshitter in quotation marks in the way that he can talk with the best of them. He's not the kind of guy to sit in the back and just be, quiet. He's not a little, a church mouse. He's out there. He's outspoken. He's fun to listen to. He's entertaining. That's why he has a YouTube following as well as an art following. George Lucas isn't that guy. George Lucas is the guy that wants to make his movies and do his thing and live in his world, but he happened to make the biggest thing ever. And that kind of got stuck to him. And I think in many ways he froze up and he became his own worst enemy about a lot of things. So I have this new look and new respect for Star Wars, even though I'd never really lost my respect for it. But as much as I love Luke, I think it's just time to look back on the original trilogy and leave it as that. I don't want to think about it anymore. They ruined it. And you can't really fix it. Once that guy from The Office's chili fell on the ground, you can try to scoop it up, but you've ruined the meal. You've ruined the carpet as well. So to me, it's just kind of done. Mm-hmm. Our friend Mega Jetty 1 says Connery was to play the Scottish caretaker in Skyfall. That would have been cool. But that guy died, I think, last year. That actor. That would have been a neat callback. And I also wouldn't have minded to see, James Bond's not a code name, but to see the other actors in these movies would have been funny. If Roger Moore was in the background of something, would it have worked? Who knows? I like Goldeneye the way it is, but it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world if he showed up in for the 40th anniversary of Bond or something. All the Bond actors who are still alive are at a casino and he walks past them or some dumb shit. I don't know. That movie has other problems. That wouldn't have been the most heinous offense. Crispy Critter says it's cancel culture community, not rocket science. Well, I like that you spelled it all the way you did. I get what you're putting down. Thank you. And then our friend Shogun Orta says, thanks, guys, for recovering topics. Hey, you know what? Thanks for sticking with us the whole time. We had a good time tonight. Yes, it went off the rails. Am I mad? No. Was I mad at the time? Whatever. But I just want to reassure everyone that I stand by what I say. I want these shows and all this stuff on my channel to be fun and an escape from what's going on. And
Just
sometimes,
shut me up if I go nuts. I'm sorry, I'm dumb.
yes, I clearly don't know The Office. His name like Kevin or some shit. I don't like that show. I've watched a couple episodes. The one when they're on the boat in the first season and something else, and it wasn't for me. But on the other hand, Parks and Rec, that was my jam. I mean, I already bought my Halloween costume. I'm Burt Macklin, FBI. So, yeah, there we go.
Well, we'll try and have a lot of fun next week too. We'll do it on Midnight's Edge, and I know I already got Uche Wanera is supposed to show up. We'll see if I can get anybody else. We'll have a good time. We'll have some fun. So.
And on the 14th, I'm gonna. I spoke to him already, so I wanted to give him ample time. But I did talk to Young Ripa, aka Eric. Okay, good. So he followed me back and he responded back. So he's interested, but we're gonna shoot for the 14th of July and to have him on because I'm a subscriber. That's the thing, folks. Some of us, you subscribe to us, you watch our videos. We're just like you. We subscribe, we watch other people's videos too. I followed Michael for years. Dude, I geeked out when Retro Blasted was on the channel. Like, I'm a huge Michael fan. I tried to get him for tonight, but he was busy. Dude, Midnight's Edge. I've been watching you guys since the Ghostbusters and Fan 4 Stick shit. So it's crazy that I can call you my friends. So it's fun for that. But Young Rip is a guy I do subscribe to. And it's awesome that he just hit 200,000 subscribers. A lot of people are having that upswing. So I'm excited to, talk to him, pick his brain about stuff, and have a great show. So come back, folks, next week on Midnight's Edge. Tom, Mecca, and you said Uche, right? Uche will be there. Maybe we'll let Rob on. Maybe. But depends on what he'll give me.
Head. Ask for head.
Oh, gee.
It's not gay if he's the one doing
it. Sure. That's how that
works. But no, folks, thank you for joining us tonight. You can catch us over on Mindless Entertainment in just a few moments. It's going to be a fun.
We're having a fun time.
A fun comic-based show to a degree.
There you go.
Talking a lot of comics. And we're definitely going to do a little Mad Libs at the end, too.
And one last thing before we do go. Do me a favor. Check out, even if you have access to it, don't subscribe to it. But HBO Max has an uncut version of Casino Royale that hasn't been released up until recently. So I'm going to check it out as a Bond fan to know that there's a new alternate take of that, some more of the extended violence scenes. Gets me excited. So if you're looking for something fun, check it out. It's over. You mean the newer movie or the original? The Daniel Craig Casino Royale has edited for violence scenes reinserted. Oh, I didn't know. Wow, I thought you meant the original, but that's cool. That movie. I know Rambo's finally got it. It's the last Rambo movie is getting released at least digitally so far in its extended cut. So America can finally see the version that other places got to see before. All right, folks. So Mecca, where can everyone find you on the internet?
Mecca Random 42. I have a channel. I have Random Game User 42 on Twitch. I'm going to try and do more Twitch. And yeah, everywhere. Midnight's Edge After Dark here. I don't know.
Tom, sorry, Becca.
Sorry, I'm forgetting stuff, I'm sure.
You have Creepy Little Book and stuff you do, correct?
Oh, yeah. We do Creepy Little Book always, too. Pretty much every night. I'm there.
Probably jump from there to there, ain't you?
Yeah, usually. Well, it depends. I mean, we're going earlier live now over there.
Yeah, since the...
So, yeah.
By the way, Dr. Coffinails, I watched the chat. Moonraker is not the best Bond movie, all right? I will see you at Horror Hound. We will have this discussion. We can debate for 12 hours straight. You know what? Until the con closes. I keep seeing Moonraker. All I keep thinking is, Moonwalker was pretty cool. I know it has nothing to do with 007, but I don't know.
And you can find me here, there, everywhere, of course. You can find me on Twitter arguing with fucking blue check marks all the time. Too.
Me too.
It's part of the culture war, man. But you know what, folks? We got tons of entertainment for you guys. I'm going to put out some videos this week. Like I said, I am going out of town, so if you miss me, well, I'm going to miss you just as much. But got to go see my mom for her birthday. It's been way too many months.
Happy birthday, Jeff's mom.
She appreciates it. She knows who you guys are because she's heard me talk about Midnight's Edge. So, you know, folks, yeah. So, folks, we're going to end the show as we always do. No matter what happens in the world, no matter how stupid or crazy it gets, no matter what franchises they go after, you know, use your heads, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.